Chapter 499. 15 years ago, Su Mang just became the chief editor of Fengshan. Because of her sharp style, she offended many people. At the Fengshan charity banquet, she was framed by her opponent. The swimsuit of an actress that was supposed to be auctioned was replaced by a set of black lace underwear. After the red cloth was untied, there was a private photo of Su Mang wearing underwear on the big screen. Originally, the whole banquet was almost ruined by this accident. Of course, the underwear was not the one that Su Mang had worn at all. However, the person who framed her made a great effort to find the exact same one, deliberately making Su Mang a fool. There was an uproar at the banquet. 15 years ago, the society was still conservative. Even though Fengshan was a women-themed magazine, there were always underwear photos. However, it was really outrageous for the chief editor to take out her own underwear in such a serious charity auction. But Su Mang was a woman of iron. After her face turned blue for a while, she went to the stage in person, grabbed the host's microphone, and introduced the experience of wearing the underwear. Her words were humorous and witty. In the end, she also explained, "By the way, let me explain. This underwear is brand new. I like to buy 2 sets when I buy things. If I want to take it back and give it to my wife or girlfriend, as long as the size is the same as mine, it is absolutely okay." This witty remark made the banquet return to the theme of charity from the discussion. It also started the Fengshan Charity Banquet. Every year, the auction items of the Fengshan Charity Banquet were strange and unconventional. In the following 15 years, there were auctions of a strand of hair of a football player, a lipstick used by an actress, and even a portrait drawn on a napkin. There were whispers in the crowd. At that time, no matter how much the bidder bid, he bid at 10 times the price. In the end, he bid at a high price of 500 million. This is the highest price of an auction item in the Fengshan Charity Banquet so far. Nonsense, Su Mang muttered in a low voice. Why are these people so gossipy? Yi Huanyan rarely saw Su Mang blushing. Li Ao next to her looked at her with a gentle and doting smile. Li Ao had been with Su Mang for so many years. Finally, he could see the light. It's not nonsense. Yi Huanyan smiled and defended for the onlookers. Su Mang glared at her angrily. You talk too much. Didn't I speak for your man just now? Yi Huanyan stuck out her tongue. Yes. I was wrong. Su Mang blushed even more and turned around to glare at Li Ao. Look at what you have done. That's right, Li Ao's good deed had turned the underwear, which should have been buried under the various unconventional auction items in the past 15 years, into a legend. It couldn't be denied even if he wanted to. Yi Huanyan smiled gently and turned to look at Ling Han. I'm going to look for Xiao Yu. She didn't look well just now. Ling Han nodded slightly. Ji Xiaoya was wearing a beautiful and expensive gown, holding a walkie-talkie in her hand. She was anxiously watching the proceedings of the banquet and scolding people into the walkie-talkie. Little Zhang, how many times have I told you? When the host is intertwining lines, take the star to the backstage and get ready first. Later, she won't be able to catch up with the time. When Yi Huanyan walked over, she had just finished scolding people. The host on the stage had just asked President Xiao to make a lot of meaningless promotional slogans for his company. He finally got off the stage with great difficulty. At this moment, the performer behind him had already gone on the stage. Damn it. What do you mean? Yi Huanyan came out from behind her and interrupted. 15 million yuan. It's a good start. The performer didn't miss the time to go on the stage. Does she deserve to die? Seeing that it was Yi Huanyan, Ji Xiaoya came to her senses. She rolled her eyes at President Xiao and Mrs. Qiao, who went down from the other side of the stage and complained to Yi Huanyan. What a weirdo. Just by donating 15 million yuan, they can't wait to talk on the stage all night? They really think that this is a general meeting of their corporate culture. The audience below is almost falling asleep. I wasted 15 minutes. It's estimated that they have to delete 2 programs. Yi Huanyan couldn't help laughing. It's just 2 programs. It's worth it to exchange 15 million yuan. I'm tired. I have to greet the performers who haven't gone on the stage. My head is about to explode. When I was an assistant, I was not so tired. I really don't know how Chief Editor Sue survived. I see that she looks radiant and full of spirit every day. I'm far from her. Everyone has their own responsibility. Sister Su Mang is not as careful as you. She has to keep an eye on such a small thing. Yi Huanyan glanced at the walkie-talkie in her hand. You don't let your assistant do this. I really admire you. When Yi Huanyan participated in Fengshan's charity banquet before, Su Mang was hardly busy. It was the executives of Fengshan who were running around. She sat at the main table elegantly and dignified, drinking and chatting with the people around her. The whole banquet passed quickly. She was not like the current chief editor, who was wearing a dress but doing the work of a staff member. Don't mention it. It was supposed to be Lillian's job, but she had diarrhea today. I was worried about her new assistant, so I had to do it myself. While speaking, Ji Xiaoya's forehead was sweating. Yi Huanyan frowned. You don't look well. Do you want to have a rest? I'm fine. I'm just a little dizzy. Ji Xiaoya held the chair beside her and took a deep breath. When the next program is over, there will be a speech. I'll be fine after the speech. You're really fine. Look at your pale lips. Yi Huanyan looked worried. Really? Ji Xiaoya touched her lips subconsciously. I must have just drunk with others and lost my lipstick. Today's makeup is light. I'll be fine after touching it up. While speaking, she took out a makeup mirror and lipstick from her small bag to touch up her makeup. How is it? Do you feel better? After Ji Xiaoya finished touching up her makeup, she looked up at Yi Huanyan. I do feel better. Is your speech long? Let me take a look. I'll try to make it short. Not many people are listening anyway. The sooner you're done, the sooner my brother can send you home to rest. I heard from Sister Su Mang that you've been pulling all-nighters. Ji Xiaoya took out the prepared speech script from her bag. It's all done by the secretary. I didn't read it carefully. I'll just read it later. What's this? It's a mess. I'm not going to read it. Later, you just have to bow and thank everyone for coming here to participate in this grand event. Also, thank everyone for their kindness. The subsequent reconstruction of the primary school in the mountain area will be privately sent to each company. You're too official and direct. Ji Xiaoya rolled her eyes at Yi Huanyan. As they chatted, the program ended. The host announced that it was time for Chief Editor Ji to give a speech. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I'm going on stage. Ji Xiaoya stuffed her bag, lipstick, and makeup mirror into Yi Huanyan's arms. Then, she took her speech script and went on stage. When she went up the stairs, Ji Xiaoya obviously staggered. Yi Huanyan's heart tightened. Chapter 500. Hello everyone. I am the chief editor of Fengshan, Ji Xiaoya. Thank you very much to everyone in the audience. Today, we have actors, singers, writers, directors, screenwriters, and bosses from various industries in the audience. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to participate in Fengshan's charity night. Listening to Ji Xiaoya slowly read through the script, Yi Huanyan's heart gradually calmed down. Her breathing was steady, and there wasn't a trace of urgency or panic. When Ji Xiaoya stumbled on the stairs, just now, she was scared half to death. She thought that she was going to roll off the stage. Luckily, she managed to stand firm and the lights weren't on the side of the stage, so not many people saw her. Yi Huanyan glanced at the script in Ji Xiaoya's hands. Based on her current unhurried reading speed, it would take her at least 10 minutes to finish speaking. She didn't know where this secretary came from, but she was quoting from classics at length. She yawned while hugging a pile of things. Just as she turned around, she heard a very familiar sentence from the stage behind her. Thank you for your kindness. No matter how much you donate, it is a kindness to the children in the mountainous areas. I will personally supervise the transformation of Xiao Shui in the mountainous areas and send it to each donor's company for everyone to supervise. These words, Yi Huanyan turned around and looked at the stage in confusion. There was a tidal wave of applause from the audience. The speech ended just like that, and it didn't even take 2 minutes. The host was obviously a little confused. Ji Xiaoye gave him a look, and he hurriedly went on stage to take over the script and announce the following activities. Yi Huanyan faintly sensed that something was wrong. Ji Xiaoye got off the stage from the other side. The lights on the other side were even dimmer. Yi Huanyan saw her slowly squatting down while supporting herself against the wall. Her eyes suddenly narrowed, and she lifted the corner of her dress and rushed over. But someone was faster than her. Gu Xinian had just come out of the restroom when he saw Yi Huanyan sprinting backstage in the dark. He glanced in the direction she was running, and his expression instantly changed. In the hospital, Gu Xinian was pacing back and forth in front of the operating room. His brows were furrowed, and his expression was frighteningly dark. When the door finally opened, the nurse walked out, took off her mask and asked, "Who's the family member?" "I am." Gu Xinian stepped forward. "Sign here, and we can start the operation." Ji Xiaoye had acute appendicitis. If it wasn't for the fact that she couldn't take the pain and fainted on the edge of the stage, she would have kept it in. Gu Xinian picked up the pen and asked hesitantly, "There won't be any risks in this surgery, right?" "Sir, all surgeries are risky." The nurse who spoke did not recognize Gu Xinian, and her attitude was very impatient. "As family members, you should be more careful. She's pregnant, and she has to be careful even when taking medicine. You guys are good, and you even gave her appendicitis. How careless." "Pregnant?" Yi Huanyan exclaimed and walked forward. "You said she's pregnant? You didn't know." The nurse was stunned. When she came back to her senses, her expression became more and more unpleasant. She said in a bad mood, "Is this a joke?" Seeing Gu Xinian's guilty and distressed expression, Yi Huanyan hurriedly asked, "Will this pregnancy affect the appendicitis surgery? Will it increase the risk?" "I've already said that as long as it's an operation, there will be risks. We can't completely guarantee that there won't be any risks, especially when you didn't know that she was pregnant before. You didn't take care of yourself, right? Her body may not be in good condition. Then can we treat it conservatively?" Yi Huanyan asked again. "Yes, we can, but in the early stages of pregnancy, surgery is usually the choice. It won't affect the uterus much. Moreover, if we treat it conservatively, the pregnant woman will be the one in pain. Our attending doctor recommends surgery." Yi Huanyan glanced at Gu Xinian. From what the nurse said, the risk was not high. However, because of Ji Xiaoye's pregnancy, this operation was indeed risky, and it could not completely avoid the damage to the fetus. If they treated it conservatively, they would definitely be able to ensure the health and safety of the fetus, but the one who would suffer would be Ji Xiaoye, who would be hospitalized later. With a few swipes, Gu Xinian handed the signed surgery contract to the nurse. Surgery. His voice was dull. Even though his movements were clean and neat, there was an indescribable struggle in his eyes. After the door of the operating theater closed, Yi Huanyan tugged at Gu Xinian's sleeve. "Brother, it'll be fine. It'll definitely be fine. It's just an appendicitis operation." Gu Xinian clenched his fingers. Yi Huanyan could clearly feel his stiffness through his suit. As they were waiting, Yi Huanyan's phone rang. She took out her phone and looked up at Gu Xinian. "It's Mom." The caller ID showed that it was Wen-yi. She had probably heard about the incident at the dinner party from Chenin. Gu Xinian pursed his lips and frowned. "Don't tell Mom and Dad about Xiao Yu's pregnancy for now." Yi Huanyan nodded. "Okay, I know. It was better to be safe than sorry." The old madam had waited for so long for her grandson. If she were to tell her that she was pregnant now, she would probably be worried to death. After pressing the answer button, Wen Yi's voice came from the other end of the line. Yan, what's wrong with Xiao Yu? Ain didn't tell us clearly when she came back. What do you mean by she fainted? What happened? Is it serious?" "It's fine. She's in the hospital now. They said it's appendicitis. I don't think she'll be able to eat well for the next 2 days." The other end of the line was slightly relieved. "Appendicitis? That's good. Your brother is next to her, right?" "Yeah." "Tell him to be more careful with his wife. Seriously, Xiaoyu has been complaining about losing weight every day. What's there to lose weight with that small body of hers? This brat must have said something to someone. He likes thin women. This appendicitis is most likely caused by him. Pass the phone to him. I'll give him a good scolding. Yi Huanyan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Mom, you're blaming my brother for this appendicitis. Aren't you being a little too biased? Xiao Yu's condition was also an accident. The hospital doesn't allow me to answer the phone. I'll hang up first. I'll talk to you after the surgery. Sigh. Without waiting for Yi to speak, Yi Huanyan hung up the phone. She was afraid that she would reveal her nervousness if she said too much. After hanging up the phone, she carefully glanced at Gu Sinian. His face was still gloomy. She didn't dare to let him answer the phone. No one knew him better than his mother. Once he picked up the phone and heard Gu Sinian's tone, she couldn't hide it anymore. It was snowing heavily. If old Madame Yang got anxious and drove straight to the hospital, it would be too late for regrets if something happened on the way. The lights in the operating room were still on. Gu Sinian stood motionless at the door like a statue. Ling Han bought some food. He glanced at Gu Sinian and handed him a bottle of water. Gu Sinian unscrewed the cap and took a sip. He squeezed the plastic bottle so hard that it made a cracking sound. Ling Han was about to say something when Yi Huanyan interrupted him. Forget it. She sighed helplessly and reached out to take the food from Ling Han. What did you buy? At this moment, if she continued to be nervous, the atmosphere in the hospital corridor would really freeze. Ling Han opened the plastic bag and revealed the box inside. His expression was gentle. It's your favorite cheesecake. Chapter 501. Yi Huanyan's face warmed. She reached out to take it, but Ling Han's body suddenly swayed. It was as if he had slipped, and he suddenly staggered and fell. Yi Huanyan cried out in alarm. She instinctively reached out to hold him, but the huge inertia from his fall made her fall to the ground together with him. Her head hit his chest, and they fell into a ball. Gu Sinian finally came back to his senses and hurried over. Ling Han groaned, but endured the pain and helped Yi Huanyan up from his arms. He asked, "How are you? Are you hurt anywhere?" Yi Huanyan held her forehead and stood up with Gu Sinian's outstretched hand. She teased, "I'm fine. Why did you fall just like that? People who didn't know better would think that you were trying to blackmail me." After that, she reached out to Ling Han. "Come, get up." Ling Han's eyes swept over his wrist, and there was a trace of bitterness in his eyes. "Get up," Yi Huanyan urged. The corners of Ling Han's mouth twitched. He held Yi Huanyan's hand and used his other hand to support himself on the floor tiles. He exerted all his strength and managed to stand up halfway. But it was only halfway before he fell down. If it wasn't for Gu Sinian's quick reflexes, he would have pulled Yi Huanyan down again. What happened? Gu Sinian helped Ling Han stand up. His original anxiety was disturbed by Ling Han's abnormal behavior. Like Yi Huanyan, he looked at him in shock. "What's wrong with your leg?" Yi Huanyan asked. Ling Han was helped to the sofa by Gu Sinian and sat down. His eyes were dim, and he clenched his fingers. He seemed to be a little guilty. "Nothing. It's just the after effects." His voice was unbelievably muffled. It was obvious that something was wrong. "What after effects? Didn't you just recover? Chinese medicine treats the root of the problem. Didn't my mom give you acupuncture?" Yi Huanyan raised her voice and looked anxious. Gu Sinian frowned and said coldly, "Ling Han, there's no need to hide from our family. You can't hide from us either. Yesterday, Aunt Zhang said that you couldn't move your right leg at all. But today, you can walk freely. I wanted to ask you this at the banquet." Ling Han knew that he wouldn't be able to hide the truth from the brother and sister, so he obediently confessed everything. "I know that this medicine has side effects, but it will only last for half a year. After half a year, there is still hope for a full recovery." Ling Han had a guilty look on his face. He lowered his head, not daring to look into Yi Huanyan's eyes. "Are you crazy? Yi Huanyan stood up abruptly. What quick-acting treatment! Paying the price of not being able to move for half a year in exchange for you being able to move freely for a few hours? Ling Han, is there something wrong with your brain? Gu Sinian saw that his sister was out of control and hurriedly pulled her back. Yan, don't panic. He glanced at Ling Han and asked suspiciously, what medicine? I've never heard Mom say that there is any medicine that can have this effect. Ling Han frowned. Auntie said that it's called a moment, 3/4, and is extracted from the silver needles. Through the acupuncture points, it can temporarily stimulate the nerves and force the muscles and nerves that have lost their activity and conditioned reflexes to temporarily become sensitive and return to their normal state. Then what about the side effects? Gu Sinian asked. Wasn't your left leg fine before? The medicine enters the muscles and travels along the nerves, so both legs are affected. Auntie said that this kind of force stimulation will damage the muscles and nerves, so it will take half a year to recuperate. Actually, it can't be considered a complete side effect. Ling Han tried to explain, but Yi Huanyan glared at him fiercely. She said angrily, "What's wrong with you? Why did you ask Mom to use this kind of medicine on you? What difference does it make if you don't come to the event tonight?" Gu Sinian coughed dryly. Yan, don't go too far. He's doing this for you. What do you mean for me? I can't come in or leave by myself. Yi Huanyan was so angry that her eyes turned red. Her eyes were filled with tears. It wasn't easy to say that there was some improvement. What do you mean by half a year of recuperation? You're too much. Can't you ask for my opinion before doing this kind of thing? Seeing that Yi Huanyan was about to cry, Ling Han panicked. Yan, I'm sorry. I didn't think it through. What do you mean by that? You're crazy. While they were gloomy, the door of the operating theater opened. Gu Sinian quickly left the two of them behind and strode over. How is it? He asked anxiously. The surgery was successful. The pregnant woman and child are fine. The doctor removed his mask and smiled at Gu Sinian. President Gu, the appendicitis surgery is not a major surgery. Why are you so worried? The young nurse who was following behind the doctor heard the words President Gu, and her expression changed slightly. Just as the surgery was about to start, the assistant director suddenly became the chief surgeon. This was enough to shock the group of nurses. It happened so suddenly that no one had the time to ask. Now that they were out, the young nurse snapped back to her senses. Who else could get the assistant director to do this for President Gu? Gu Sinian did not notice the young nurse's uneasiness. He did not remember this nurse at all. He asked the doctor directly, "Can I see her now?" The effect of the anesthetic has not worn off yet. Mrs. Ling is weak and will probably wake up tomorrow morning. Gu Sinian nodded slightly and thanked the doctor. On the other hand, Yi Huanyan was crying. She was still angry at Ling Han for acting on his own accord. After hearing that Ji Xiaoya was fine, she picked up her bag and left. Ling Han sat on the sofa and chased after her, but he could not do anything about it. You should stay here for a night and reflect on yourself. Yi Huanyan threw this sentence and entered the elevator. Gu Sinian stood at the entrance of the operating theater. He originally wanted to follow the nurse to the ward, but when he saw this, he turned around and glanced at Ling Han. Sit here for a while. I'll get a nurse to bring you a wheelchair later. The brother and sister were the same. Without waiting for Ling Han to say anything, they disappeared without a trace like a gust of wind. Ling Han was left sitting on the sofa in the spacious corridor. He could not leave even if he wanted to. The last surgery in the middle of the night had just ended, and the doctors and nurses had just left. At this moment, he could not call anyone even if he wanted to. Yi Huanyan parked the car in front of the old mansion. Wearing a snowstorm, she stormed into the house and slammed the door loudly. Fu Yingxiang had just come out of the bathroom after taking a shower. When Yi Huanyan slammed the door shut, the cold wind caused by Fu Yingxiang shivered. She asked in surprise, "What's going on?" Yi Huanyan angrily sat down on the sofa and did not say anything for a long time. The noise was not small. The two elders next door were also worried about Ji Xiaoya and could not sleep. Not long after Yi Huanyan sat down, there was a knock on the door. "Yan Yan, are you back?" Seeing that Yi Huanyan did not say anything, Fu Yingxiang quickly replied, "Yes, she just came back. The door is not locked. And Gu, you can just open the door." "Oh, okay." The person at the door responded. Wenyi put on a coat and hurried in. As she walked, she asked, "It's snowing so heavily outside. Yan Yan, you came back alone? How is Xiaoyu? Did the surgery go well?" Chapter 502. Seeing that Yi Huanyan was silent and her eyes were red, it was obvious that she had been crying. Wenyi's expression suddenly changed. "What's the matter? What happened?" It would have been better if she hadn't asked. As soon as she asked, Yi Huanyan suddenly burst into tears and sobbed, "Mom, why did you do that?" Wenyi panicked. She turned around to look at Fu Yingxiang, but only saw a confused look on her face. Fu Yingxiang walked out of the bathroom door while drying her hair and explained, "I just came out of the shower." She came back and sat down without saying anything. Wenyi panicked. "What did I do? What does it have to do with Xiaoyu's surgery? Why did you promise Ling Han to give him that kind of medicine?" Yi Huanyan held back her sobs and asked intermittently. Fu Yingxiang looked at Wenyi hesitantly. "What medicine?" Wenyi also looked confused. After a while, she suddenly came back to her senses and asked hesitantly, "Yan Yan, you're not talking about a minute, right?" Yi Huanyan nodded and cried even more miserably. "What about the side effects of half a year? Are you going to let him sit in a wheelchair?" When she thought about how Ling Han would have to go to Venture Media to discuss business with the villain Hong Rizhang, she became even more angry. If he had to sit in a wheelchair, he was destined to be ridiculed even more. Wenyi laughed out loud. "Mom, how can you still laugh?" Yi Huanyan couldn't believe it. "How much do you dislike him to be like this? You're too much. I'm too much?" Wenyi pointed at her own nose and pursed her lips. "If you say that again, I'm going to get angry." "You're angry?" "I'm angry. If I'm angry, I won't tell you the truth. I'll let you and Ling Han hug each other and cry. Anyway, I don't feel bad. You two feel bad for each other. The truth." Yi Huanyan's expression froze, and her crying gradually stopped. "What truth?" Wenyi was originally squatting in front of Yi Huanyan. At this moment, she supported herself on the sofa and stood up. She patted her waist, yawned, and walked to the single-seater sofa and sat down. "The truth is, I was just teasing that kid. Teasing him." Yi Huanyan almost screamed. Wenyi still had a righteous look on her face. "I did use some potion in front of him, but that potion has always been used. It's just that this time, the dosage is a little higher, so it can help him temporarily move freely." "What about the side effects?" Yi Huanyan asked anxiously. "The side effect is that it won't last for long. You'll need to rest more after that." Wenyi looked relaxed. "Do you think I'm some kind of poison expert? How could you two believe such low-level words to coax a child? You even came back to give me a dirty look. My dear daughter, you're really good at this." Yi Huanyan looked at her mother skeptically. "Are you serious? If you don't believe me, then forget it. It has nothing to do with me, even if he's paralyzed for the rest of his life. It's all the result of your prayers that he'll be able to stand up tomorrow." Wenyi stood up and pretended to be unhappy. She pretended to leave. Fu Yingxiang gave Yi Huanyan a look. She hurriedly stood up and pulled her mother. "Mom, I was wrong. What were you wrong about? I shouldn't have questioned you. You were wrong." Wenyi turned around and held her hand. "You were wrong because you cared for him too much. You were too worried about him." Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. Wenyi sighed and patted the back of her hand. She said unwillingly, previously, "I lied to him because I wanted to see if he valued you more than his legs. I just wanted to lie and tease him, but I didn't expect to shoot myself in the foot. That rascal agreed, without even blinking an eye. Then, there was the matter with Xiaoyu, and the two of you didn't make it back in time. Look, you caught up with him when the effects of the drug wore off. You cheated your own daughter. Mom, is Xiaoyu okay? When Yi suddenly changed the topic. She's fine. The surgery was a success, Yi Huanyan quickly replied. Okay, then it's fine. I'm going back to sleep. I'm so sleepy. Yi stretched and quietly pulled her hand out of Yi Huanyan's grasp. She walked to the door, looking a little lonely. Yi Huanyan was feeling guilty. She suddenly leaned on the doorframe and sighed. She said in a very pretentious tone, "It's not good to raise a son and a daughter. When they grow up, they have to worry about others. It's so sad." Fu Yingxiang glanced at Yi Huanyan. Yi Huanyan was stunned. When she heard Wen Yi's lamenting, she suddenly remembered something. She stood up and said, "Mom, Xiaoyu is pregnant." "What?" Wen Yi turned her head abruptly. There was no sadness on her face. Instead, she looked pleasantly surprised. "Really? When did this happen?" Fu Yingxiang finally couldn't hold it in anymore. She burst out laughing. "Aunt Gu, if you hold it in a little longer, you'll get an Oscar." When Yi snapped back to her senses, a trace of resentment flashed across her eyes. She waved her hand without hesitation. "Let's talk about the Oscars later. Hurry up and tell me about the pregnancy." The news of Ji Xiaoya's pregnancy had a huge impact on her. As for acting as a lonely mother with her daughter, she could temporarily put it aside for the time being. Yi Huanyan breathed a sigh of relief. Her low spirits were instantly swept away. It was late at night. It was snowy outside. A taxi stopped at the entrance of the old mansion. Ling Zhan got out of the car. He was wearing a black suit with a black down jacket. A large hat with a fluffy collar fluttered in the howling north wind. "Brother, I'll just stay in a hotel." "Get out." Ling Zhan pulled on the car door. He was in a deadlock. After a while, a leg slowly stretched out from inside. "If I let you stay in a hotel, you'll go to heaven. Today, you're a reporter. Tomorrow, you'll be a doctor. Did you not have enough cosplay in America? Brother, it hurts. Don't pull me, I'll walk on my own. Hurry up, it's too late. No one will clean your room. You'll sleep in my room tonight." "What?" Ling Li pouted and blinked. "I'm already so old. It's not appropriate to share a room with you, right? I'll sleep on the sofa." "That's not appropriate either." "Then you sleep on the sofa." Ling Li quickly changed your mind. "I think your previous suggestion was very appropriate. You sleep on the sofa, and I'll sleep on the bed." "Keep your voice down. Come in." When they entered the courtyard, Ling Zhan lowered his voice. He grabbed Ling Li's hand and walked across the courtyard. He then pushed her into his room. "Hey, brother, where are you going?" Seeing that Ling Zhan did not come in, Ling Li was confused. She was about to poke her head out when she was rejected. "Shut up, go wash up and sleep." Ling Zhan impatiently closed the door and blocked out Ling Li's voice. He did not care about Ling Li's screams in the room. After closing the door, he stood at the door and shook off the snow on the brim of his hat. He rubbed his hands and stared at the opposite door in a daze. Ling Li's sudden appearance on the red carpet tonight had first caused a direct psychological impact on him, and then Ling Han's appearance completely ruined his original plan. Tonight, it could be said that it was a complete failure from beginning to end. But he still wanted to try again. Chapter 503. There was a burst of laughter coming from the opposite room. "Really? Xiaoyu is awake? Why did you wake her up? Let her have a good rest. I'll visit her tomorrow morning. Give her the phone. I want to talk to her." Wen Yi's voice was bright and clear. "Mom, that's enough. You want her to rest, and now you want her to answer the phone. What are you trying to do?" "Aunt Gu is happy too." Fu Yingxiang's voice interrupted. "Why don't you guys talk for a while? I'll go out and make you some supper or something. With such good news, I'm afraid none of us will be able to sleep tonight. Why don't we talk?" "Sure." Wen Yi readily agreed. Before she could finish speaking, Yi Huanyan said unhappily, "Supper? Mom, I was scared to death today. I want to sleep. You should hurry back. Dad doesn't know about this yet. You can't keep the good news to yourself, right? Also, Sister Xiang is a guest. How can you let a guest make supper? Fu Yingxiang laughed out loud. Fine, fine. I'll go make supper. If you don't want to eat, I want to eat too. Let's chat. We can ask Uncle to come over too. When Fu Yingxiang opened the door and left, Ling Zhan had been standing in the yard for a long time. Her hands and feet were cold from the cold wind. Lanjiang City was exceptionally cold this year. After a heavy snowfall, it was even colder. A gust of cold wind blew into Fu Yingxiang's neck as she stepped out of the door. It was so cold that she shivered. Out of the corner of her eye, she involuntarily saw a figure standing in the corridor. The moonlight was bright, and the figure's shadow was very clear on the snow. She was stunned for a moment before she looked up. Why are you standing here? I just came back. Ling Zhan came back to her senses. She moved her body and felt that her hands and feet were cold. Oh. Fu Yingxiang responded. At this moment, she suddenly felt that Ling Zhan was a completely different person from the elegant man who had given her a lollipop in the car. At this moment, his eyebrows were full of the childishness of a teenager, and there seemed to be a bit of unwillingness. He was not as calm as before. However, it was this childishness that made her curious. After staring at him for a while, she asked, I'm going to the kitchen to make some supper. I'll send one to you later. Ling Zhan was about to refuse when she heard a creak behind her. A head popped out of the door and said, 2 servings. I want to eat too. Fu Yingxiang was startled. This girl's voice was exceptionally light, and she was caught off guard by her sudden appearance. She looked at the source of the voice behind Ling Han in astonishment. 1 is enough. Sorry to trouble you, Sister Xiaoing. Ling Zhan looked back at the girl. He seemed to be a little impatient, but there was also a little doting. Fu Yingxiang could not help but guess their relationship. She nodded and went to the kitchen with mixed feelings. Brother, do you have a sister complex? Ling Zhan did not say anything. He pressed Ling Li's head and pushed her back into the room. After closing the door, he heard his sister say this. Who was that just now? She's quite pretty. She's quite similar to Yi Huanyan style. Are you done? Ling Zhan glanced at her. Pack up your things and go back to America tomorrow. Why are you in such a hurry? Ling Li threw herself on the sofa and said rudely, I think you and Yi Huanyan are out of the picture. Their children are already so big. I thought my brother was heartless and married another beauty. Now it seems that they are destined to be together. Why are you getting involved? Ling Zhan pursed her lips and looked a little unhappy. She changed the topic and said, It's none of your business. Just mind your own business. Have you finished your graduation design? Speaking of graduation design, Ling Li suddenly shrank and said angrily, I've been rejected so many times, but Elsa is still not satisfied. I really don't know what kind of design she wants. I seriously suspect that she's going against me. Elsa is a world-famous jewelry designer. Why would she go against a little kid like you? You probably didn't put in the effort and just handed in the design. Don't I know you? Stop. Ling Li looked upset and suddenly raised her hand. Don't talk to me about these useless things. You can't help me with my graduation design, so don't nag me. Just like how I can't help you with your love life. I won't nag you. While they were talking, there was a knock on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Coming. Ling Zhan turned to open the door. As soon as the door opened, Ling Li took a deep breath and jumped up exclaiming, It's the 1,000-mile fragrance of chaos. Fu Yingxiang smiled and nodded. She put it on the coffee table and looked at Ling Zhan. I made 2 bowls. I heard from Yen that you left early from the dinner party. You probably didn't eat much. Try it. It's not filling. Ling Zhan was a little embarrassed. Sorry to trouble you, Xiaoing. It's okay. While they were talking, Ling Li had already unceremoniously picked up the bowl and stuffed 2 mouthfuls of wonton into his mouth. He exhaled in satisfaction and said, Wow, this is so delicious. Did you make it? Yes. If you like it, there's more in the kitchen. I knew it. Aunt Zhang never makes chaos. She always makes dumplings with fillings. Haha, I like chaos. Ling Li looked at Fu Yingxiang with a smile and said meaningfully, "You'll have a lot of good food with my brother in the future." Ling Zhan turned to look at her. "Don't talk nonsense." When she turned back, Fu Yingxiang didn't seem to take it to heart. She looked calm and turned to leave. "I still have to help Aunt Zhang send the rest to Aunt Gu and Little Wu. I'm leaving." Ling Zhan nodded and walked her to the door. He opened the door and watched her leave before closing the door. Ling Li's voice came from behind. "Brother, she's already gone. You're still in a daze. Are you going to follow her?" As soon as he finished speaking, Ling Zhan rolled his eyes again. If there was anyone in the world who could make Ling Zhan, who was always as gentle and elegant as his uncle, lose his temper, it would be this troublesome sister of his. "If you want to stay here, you'd better watch your mouth. Otherwise, I'll send you back to America first thing in the morning. What else do you know how to do other than scare me with this?" Ling Li rolled his eyes and looked at him with disdain. "Let me tell you, it's easy to send me back to America, but it's hard to face your own heart. It's been so many years, but you still haven't given up. Are you doing this for Yi Huanyan or to compete with Brother Ling Han?" "I'm not doing anything for her." "See, you're not doing anything for anything." Ling Li looked like he had seen through him. "You're like this. You usually look very rational, but when it comes to critical moments, you don't know what you're doing. Maybe you inherited this from Mom. You don't use your brain when doing things, and you insist that you're doing things for your heart. Brother, are you doing things for your heart? You're clearly leaving because of your obsession." For more than 6 years, not only had Ling Han not seen Yi Huanyan, but Ling Zhan had also not seen her. Can you really guarantee that the person you like is the real Yi Huanyan? Or rather, have you really seen the most genuine side of her? Chapter 504. In the past few years, Ling Li had indeed matured a lot. Ling Zhan could no longer evade the questions he asked. They were brother and sister, blood-related brother and sister. The telepathy between family members was innate. After a long time together, they understood each other and penetrated each other, so even a look could not be hidden from them. "You came back to China just to let yourself give up." After saying this, Ling Li lowered his head, held the bowl of soup, and drank a big mouthful. Then he wiped his mouth with his hand, got up, and threw himself on the bed like a fried dough twist. He wrapped himself in the quilt and said, "I'm going to sleep, brother." After a long while, there was an indifferent sound in the air. "Okay." The next morning, Yi ran to the hospital to visit Ji Xiaoya with a lot of bags. Yi Huanyan followed her and helped her carry her things into the trunk. She offered to drive her to the hospital. "You have an ulterior motive, Yan Yan." Yi was a smart person. She could tell at a glance that her best friend was desperately trying to find a way out of this embarrassing situation. Before she came back last night, she had probably vented her anger on Ling Han quite a bit. Now, she didn't know how to explain herself. "You're still talking about it?" Yi Huanyan said angrily. "Isn't this all your fault? Aren't you going to clean up this mess for me?" "Don't." Yi raised her hand to block the trunk door. She had a playful look on her face. "I don't want to clean up this mess. How about this? I'll take a taxi myself, or Uncle Zhang can send me there. I don't want to trouble a strong woman like you. Isn't your movie about to be released? Aren't you going to work at the company?" Yi Huanyan quickly forced a smile. "I'm just kidding. Why would I want you to clean up this mess for me? Isn't it a joke? I'm sending you to the hospital. I don't mean anything else. I'm going to see my best friend and my future nephew, right?" Ever since Yi Huanyan brought Ling Han to the Four Seasons Villa, Yi understood her daughter better. She was not a considerate person at all. Because of Ling Han, the two often bickered. Over time, they got used to this way of getting along with each other. It was much more relaxed than before. The dust of the movie was basically settled. There was only a bunch of step-by-step processes left. It was not urgent, and Gu Qi was in the company to keep an eye on it. Yi Huanyan was now worried about the acquisition plan that was mentioned by Ling Han at the charity banquet. She had not yet told Ling Han about the old lady's inheritance. As for Ling Han's own plans, the two of them had not had time to talk about them in depth. The most urgent thing was that Venture Media had already boasted that they were going to acquire Pleasure Group. She knew that she could not throw a tantrum now, so she shamelessly followed Wen-yi to the hospital. She wanted Wen-yi to explain clearly about the acupuncture. Then, the two of them could bury the hatchet and discuss the big plan together. Wen-yi teased Yi Huanyan, but she did not really intend to make things difficult for her. After all, she was her daughter. If she did not care about her daughter, who would? In the hospital, Gu Xinian blamed himself because of the surgery. He did not sleep the whole night and stayed in the ward with Ji Xiaoye the whole night. Ling Han also stayed by the side. He did not sleep because of the awkward situation with Yi Huanyan. The two of them chatted for a while. In the blink of an eye, it was dawn. When Wen-yi came to visit with a few thermal containers, the two of them looked exhausted, especially Ling Han. It was obvious that the effects of the medicine had worn off. When he saw her, he could barely open his eyes. Xiaoyu is still not awake. Wen-yi stood at the door of the ward. When she saw Ji Xiaoye lying motionless on the bed, she quickly lowered her voice and slowed down her movement of opening the door. She waved the big and small bags in her hands and said to Gu Xinian, "Eat breakfast first." Ling Han was sitting in his wheelchair and looked drowsy. When he heard this, he subconsciously felt that he would definitely not have breakfast, so he looked up and glanced at Gu Xinian. "Go ahead. If Xiaoyu wakes up, I'll call you." Wen-yi originally wanted to ask Ling Han to come out and eat with her, but from the corner of her eye, she glanced at her daughter, who was standing outside the door, and did not want to come in. She changed her words. "That's good. An Yen, come and eat." Gu Xinian reluctantly followed his mother out of the ward. He frowned and said, "Mom, I'm not hungry." "You're not hungry, but other people are." Wen-yi glanced at Yi Huanyan. "I didn't ask him not to eat breakfast. He didn't want to come out." Yi Huanyan was stunned for 2 seconds. Then she opened the door and walked in with the breakfast bags. Ling Han was stunned when he saw her come in. He looked up at her with an apologetic expression. "Eat breakfast." Yi Huanyan handed him the plastic bag with the buns in it. Her attitude was a little forceful. Ling Han took it and took 2 bites. It was dry and seemed to be difficult to swallow. She inserted the straw into the soy milk box and handed it over. Yi Huanyan lowered her voice. "Drink some soy milk." "Thank you." Ling Han nodded. He took a sip and swallowed the hard-to-swallow bun. During breakfast, Yi Huanyan did not mention what happened last night. Ling Han did not dare to mention it. There was a look of anxiety in his eyes. After he finished eating the bun and drinking the soy milk, he looked up at her. "Yen, I'm really sorry about what happened last night. If I had known that you would be so angry, I wouldn't have. Xiaoyu should be waking up soon. Don't disturb her here. I'll push you out for a walk." Ling Han was slightly stunned. While he was in a daze, Yi Huanyan had already pushed him out of the ward. At the door of the ward, Wen-yi and Gu Xinian looked at him calmly, and he floated past. The two of them did not even ask him a question. It was still early in the hospital garden. There was an old man doing morning exercises in the garden. He was wearing a blue and white striped hospital gown and practicing Tai Chi. Yi Huanyan and Ling Han were not far from the old man. Because there were not many people, their voices could be heard very clearly in the garden. "Yen, if you're still angry, I understand. I can accept how long you want to be angry with me. But you have to take care of yourself. You're wearing too little today." "I'm not angry." Yi Huanyan looked at him with a smile. "I have good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear first?" Ling Han frowned. "The bad news. The bad news is that I just found out that Umbo has been released from prison. He's already talking to CEO Hong of Venture Media about the acquisition. The offer isn't high. It seems that he's in a hurry to make a move." "What's the good news?" The good news is that because the offer isn't high, we can make a move at this time and take back the company that originally belonged to you. Ling Han went silent and seemed to be lost in thought. After a while, he sighed faintly. This isn't considered good news. I don't have that much money to talk about the acquisition now. Yi Huanyan disagreed. There's good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear first? Chapter 505. Good news. Ling Han looked up at her. The good news is that I've opened Grandma's inheritance. Although I'm not sure how much Venture Media offered for the acquisition of Pleasure Group, I can guarantee that Grandma's inheritance will definitely exceed their offer. After Yi Huanyan said this, she was met with a long silence. Ling Han frowned and didn't look happy at all. That's for you and Nano. I can't touch it. It wasn't that he didn't know what the old lady left for Yi Huanyan. Although he hadn't carefully studied the Ling family's assets, the old lady lived a conservative life and would definitely keep more than half of the assets in her hands. It wouldn't be surprising even if the amount far exceeded the entire Pleasure Group. But he never had the intention to touch those assets. From the beginning, he was sure that the inheritance belonged to Yi Huanyan and Nano. Yi Huanyan had expected him to say something like that. She took a deep breath and persuaded him. Did you forget what you said to me at the charity banquet? Ling Han's gaze froze. He clenched his fingers so tightly that his knuckles turned slightly white. At the charity banquet, the reason why he told Yi Huanyan to help him was because he found out some truths that he had never thought of before. Li Ao's words echoed in his mind the entire night, and he couldn't let it go. All these years, his resentment towards his biological father, his hatred towards Jiang Milan, the anger that he had vented his anger on Yi Huanyan, and even the wrongful explanation of his biological mother's death made him unable to rest in peace. The past 10 years seemed like a dream. In the blink of an eye, he returned to the starting point. He returned to the time when he had just returned to the country, and when Qingwan was still alive. Those depressing and unbearable times. After so many years, after washing away the hatred that had blinded his eyes, he finally remembered that when Qingwan was already in a state of severe depression back then. She was very paranoid, and her attitude towards Ling Dongming became colder and colder. Even the divorce was brought up by her. In terms of the division of assets, other than her request to give her brother a portion of the shares, the rest was all for him. She was hysterical and even wanted Ling Dongming to transfer all the assets under his name to her when they were talking about the divorce. And all of her hysterics received the mildest response. On the divorce agreement, Ling Dongming signed it without any objections. All of the assets and shares under his name were transferred to Ling Han. Actually, Ling Han didn't understand when Qingwan's actions back then. He had felt his parents' feelings for each other on the surface since he was young. The family atmosphere was cold. His mother, who was otherworldly, only knew how to read her books every day. Occasionally, she would go to the university to give lectures on modern history. To be honest, when Qingwan didn't put in much effort for this family, perhaps it was because she was arrogant, or perhaps it was because she was used to being high and mighty, or perhaps it was because she didn't have any close feelings for Ling Dongming. After so many years, Ling Han finally recognized the reality of the problem in a family back then. Even without Jiang Milan, his parents would still have gotten a divorce. At that time, what saved his parents' marriage, perhaps it was just as Li Ao said, the tumor in Wen Qingwan's body that was already incurable. Ling Dongming's objection to the divorce came from his responsibility as a man. Wen Qingwan could have spent her last days peacefully. Her husband was gentle and elegant, and her son was modest and filial. However, the car accident that ruined everything didn't just come from an affair. It was premeditated. Okay, just take it that I'm borrowing it from you and your son. When Pleasure comes back, all the shares will be under your name. Ling Han nodded. Yi Huanyan knew that it wasn't easy to struggle like this. He was such a noble person, and no one knew him better than she did. It was rare for him to lower his head. What exactly happened on the day of the charity banquet? What did Li Ao talk to them about? Yi Huanyan suddenly had some doubts. What's the bad news? Ling Han's question pulled her back to reality. The bad news is that since Umbo and his son betrayed you previously, they definitely won't dare to sell the company to you now. Even if Venture Media offers a lower price, I'm afraid it will still be their first choice. Gu Sinian was the one who told her this. She hadn't worked in the workplace for a long time and didn't know anything about the key issues of mergers and acquisitions. She had consulted Gu Sinian beforehand, and Gu Sinian had always been very concerned about this matter. So when she asked, he directly analyzed the pros and cons. According to the current situation of Umbo and his son, they definitely wouldn't be willing to let Ling Han have a chance to make a comeback. They were guilty and afraid that Ling Han would take revenge on them. However, the negotiations seem to be hindered now. I heard that they are now in a deadlock because of the acquisition contract. Ling Han rubbed his chin with a serious expression. Venture Media is in a deadlock with Umbo because Umbo and his son insist on keeping a portion of the shares in their hands and are unwilling to withdraw. Right? Yi Huanyan nodded. That's right. Hong Rizhang is a person who will cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. He won't dare to use someone like Umbo, who is always ready to usurp the throne. However, Umbo isn't stupid either. Without pleasure, they can't just sit around and do nothing in the future, right? So they have their eyes on the big pie after pleasure and Venture Media merge. They want a share of the pie. Once Venture Media and Pleasure Group merged, the corresponding assets would also be merged. After the company's restructuring, the change in equity involved the foundation of Venture Media. In other words, if Umbo and his son held on to Pleasure shares and refused to let go, in the end, they would hold on to the new Venture Media after the merger and refuse to let go. Hong Rizhang was such a shrewd person. In the hands of this father and son duo, even Ling Han had suffered a loss. How could he take the risk of leading the wolf into the house? This news isn't too bad. Ling Han suddenly smiled. And your first news is indeed good news. Yi Huanyan looked a little confused. What do you mean? There's still room for appreciation if you keep the real estate. The fixed assets that Grandma left for you and Nanao will probably only depreciate. It's better to invest them. Ling Han's eyes flashed. Umbo and his son definitely won't let go if I show up, but Venture Media will definitely lower the price when I show up to buy them. I'd like to see how much they can lower the price. While they were chatting, the person on the bed mumbled. Yi Huanyan was stunned, and the conversation came to an abrupt end. Ji Xiaoye opened her eyes slowly and said in confusion, "Where am I?" "Hey, don't move." Seeing that she was about to get up, Yi Huanyan hurriedly shouted, "You just finished the surgery. Don't move, it was too late." Ji Xiaoye's movement had already pulled on her wound. She immediately screamed, "Oh my," before she could finish speaking. The door to the ward was knocked open, and Gu Sinian rushed in anxiously. "What's wrong?" Chapter 506. When Gu Sinian rushed in, Ji Xiaoye was screaming miserably. She probably pulled the wound. Yi Huanyan explained with a pale face, "I'll call the doctor." When she went out of the door, she bumped into one, E. The mother and daughter screamed and separated from each other while covering their foreheads. For a time, there were continuous screams in the ward, and the situation happened frequently. Gu Sinian was very anxious, but he didn't dare to move casually. He only stretched out his head and asked, "Xiaoyu, where do you hurt? How are you feeling?" "My neck hurts," Ji Xiaoyu wailed, stiff neck. "What the hell is this pillow?" Hearing this, everyone was speechless. One E covered her forehead and walked to the bedside. "Darling, I'll change a new pillow for you in the afternoon. Just bear with it. How about your body? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" "My body?" Ji Xiaoye was slightly stunned. The great pain caused by the stiff neck made her have no time to care about other abnormalities on her body for a while. Now being asked by one E, she moved her waist subconsciously. Ouch! A scream overflowed from her mouth, followed by the sound of gasping. It was really painful. Compared to the screams just now, the silent parts were the real pain. Don't move, darling. When Yi said darling again and again, she pressed Ji Xiaoya's shoulder. You have just finished the appendicitis operation. Don't move. You have to rest for a while. Appendicitis? Ji Xiaoya came to her senses and suddenly remembered that she fell off the stage. Then my dinner party. Dinner party is fine. Ling Han, who was sitting in a wheelchair, interrupted. As a workaholic, he knew best what the first reaction was when he woke up. Except for work, it was still work. It was a perfect curtain call. In the end, Su Meng went to take photos with the stars. Ji Xiaoya finally felt relieved. She let out a long sigh and lay down on the pillow. Yi sat by the bed and inquired about his well-being. Gu Xinian stood at the foot of the bed, not knowing what to do. Ling Han had a thought-provoking smile on his face. Yi Huanyan had just hurriedly called the doctor. The whole family was almost here. Even if it was an appendicitis surgery, there was no need to mobilize so many people, right? Ji Xiaoya gave Gu Xinian a look. Seeing that he was in a daze and did not respond for a long time, she could only cough twice and say hesitantly, Mom, could it be that I don't have appendicitis, but some kind of cancer? What nonsense are you spouting? Ba ba ba, when Yi grabbed her hand and carefully touched the bedside table. She even murmured, just touch the wood, nothing is forbidden. No, I am confused. Ji Xiaoya looked confused. Mom, what's wrong? When Yi's joy was beyond words, she held Ji Xiaoya's wrist with trembling slightly. Xiaoyu, you are going to be a mother. Ji Xiaoya was slightly stunned. Mother? Gu Xinian stood at the foot of the bed. When he heard Wen Yi's words, he seemed to finally come to his senses. He stared at Ji Xiaoya's eyes and opened his mouth. Xiaoyu, this was the second time he was about to have a child. He had not participated in the birth of his first child. Ever since Su Ku was pregnant, he had been in a state of being kept in the dark. He did not have many good memories with that child, and he could only watch as the child died before his eyes. In fact, he was afraid. He was afraid that such a small life was too fragile. If he didn't take good care of it, it would lead to a big mistake that couldn't be undone. Therefore, no matter how much his mother urged him to have a child with Ji Xiaoya, he didn't ask for anything in his heart. Ji Xiaoya saw his worry in his eyes. Her originally happy mood was completely disrupted by his worried look. She couldn't help but frown. Does your neck still hurt? When Yi asked, she quickly shook her head, but she pulled the nerves in her neck and cried out in pain. Hey, this pillow won't do. When Yi turned to look at Gu Xinian and urged, Nian, go buy a new one now. It has to be the kind that can treat cervical vertebrae. Gu Xinian was stunned. Oh, okay, I'll get Gucci to buy it. Does Gucci have time to pay attention to you? Yen is crazy busy at the company. Recently, you have to go and buy some cassia seeds at the Chinese medicine store. Everyone could tell that Gu Xinian was a little distracted at this moment. However, when Yi was focused on her daughter-in-law and didn't pay attention to him, Ling Han held the axle of his wheelchair and walked around when Yi, without a trace. He walked past Gu Xinian and said, I know where to buy it. I'll go with you. Gu Xinian finally came back to his senses and nodded hurriedly and followed him out of the ward. From the beginning to the end, except for that Xiaoyu that he didn't know the meaning of, he didn't speak to Ji Xiaoya again. The worry on his face was more than joy. After he left, Ji Xiaoya stared at the spot where he was standing just now for a long time. She was a little lost. She didn't have a child ever since she got married, not because she was unlucky, but because she had always taken precautions. Gu Xinian didn't want a child. If she still didn't understand this, she would have lived in vain for so many years. It wasn't because she had a temper that she threw tantrums every 2 to 3 days. On one hand, her mother-in-law urged her to have a child, and on the other hand, her husband pretended to comply but didn't want a child. No matter what decision she made in her heart, she decided to be in a bad position. If she wanted to get to the bottom of it, Ji Xiaoya could even predict when this child was born. It was purely an accident. With this child, An Yan's knot in her heart is really untied. When Yi's voice echoed in her ears. Ji Xiaoye was slightly stunned. Not in my heart? Was she referring to Suku's child? Wen Yi's slender fingers brushed the loose strands of hair scattered by the pillow. Her expression was gentle, and she was no longer ecstatic. She was almost like a different person from a minute ago. Previously, I kept urging you to have a child. Do you think I'm so anxious to have a grandson? Even if I'm anxious, I have Naneo by my side. The reason why I'm urging you so much is that I don't want any more misunderstandings between you two because of the past. That child has always been a knot in An Yan's heart. It's not that he doesn't want a child, but he's afraid. I know my own son best. Ji Xiaoye's expression froze. You're saying that Xin Yan has always not wanted a child because he's afraid? What is he afraid of? He's afraid of losing something. Sometimes, the feeling of not having something or a person is much better than the feeling of losing something after having it. You know how it feels to have your hopes dashed, right? The siblings are both stubborn. After they've set their sights on something or a person, it's too difficult to let go. Suku's death was a blow to Gu Xinian. At least he had a child to make up for it. However, that child died young, and it was the last straw that broke the camel's back. The guilt and uneasiness that had long subsided came back again, and it made Gu Xinian suffocate. No one could persuade him, and no one dared to persuade him. At that time, your father and I didn't dare to persuade him. The family doctor was on standby 24 hours a day, afraid that he wouldn't be able to take it and would collapse one day. If it weren't for Xiaoying, the two of us really wouldn't know what to do. Chapter 507. He felt guilty toward Xiaoying. It was only in front of Xiaoying that he didn't act rashly. In any case, she saved him. Since then, you also know that he hasn't been interested in any other woman. When Yi sighed, actually, old Gu and I didn't have any hopes of him getting married or having children. At that time, when he said that he wanted to come back to China to relax and find his sister, we only took it as an excuse to escape from the villa. Meeting you was really an accident in life. Meeting Xin Yan was also an accident in my life. Ji Xiaoye frowned. However, this accident was too shocking for her. Her entire youth was in turmoil. Xiaoyu, our family feels that his life is actually dark and gloomy. It's not because no one can illuminate him, but because he would rather be buried under a pile of ruins. But you made him walk out of it, so I hope that the two of you can truly permeate each other's lives and live a good life. Ji Xiaoye pursed her lips. She knew that it was a very sad thing to fall in love with a man with a story. You couldn't make him forget the past, and you couldn't even ask him to let go of the past because it was a part of him. It constantly reminded you of its existence and couldn't be erased. She thought about this before she got married and accepted it. But it wasn't until after she got married that she understood that when the other person's memories were a minefield that you couldn't penetrate and talk to, friction was inevitable. The impact of Suku and the child's death on Gu Xinian was so great that it was beyond her imagination. Because of the child's ashes, he almost didn't have any glass bottles with him. The decorations in the house were always mainly milky white. Even the windows were designed with wooden shutters. He never drank from a glass cup and was always drinking from a white porcelain cup. Did he really let go? Neither of them mentioned it and tacitly deceived themselves. Yes, he let go. Is it enough to just have this child? Ji Xiaoye looked at Wen Yi. But I think Xin Yan doesn't want this child. Child. Wen Yi touched her forehead with a loving expression. You're wrong. After the child is born, you'll understand. All his energy will be placed on this child. Your family and everything in the past will be gone. Ji Xiaoye looked at Wen Yi as if she understood. Even if she didn't understand, Wen Yi's words couldn't be wrong. Who could understand her son better than her? However, it seemed to be a tradition of the Gu family to leave things unsaid. Ji Xiaoye tilted her head and coughed dryly, secretly sighing. In the Gu family, from the head of the family, Gu Heng, to Yi Huanyan's little assistant, Gu Qi, all of them had outstanding IQ. Their words were very profound and difficult to understand. The only exception was Gu Min, who was a weapon lover. She was always shouting about fighting and killing. In a private room of a private club in Lanjiang City, a middle-aged man in his 40s played with a purple clay teapot in his hand. There was a hint of impatience between his brows. "What time is it?" The assistant beside him glanced at his wrist. "CEO Hong, it's 11 o'clock." Hong Rizhong frowned and looked in the direction of the room's entrance. There was no one else other than the waiter, standing respectfully. Today he had an appointment with Umbo to discuss the acquisition of Pleasure Group. This was already the third time. The first two times, Umbo was very enthusiastic. This time, he was actually half an hour late. "CEO Hong, will Mr. Wen not come?" "Impossible." Hong Rizhong sneered. "Unless he wants to wait for Pleasure Group to declare bankruptcy and be burdened with debt. How's the news from Macau?" Hearing that, the assistant breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. "That's true. Our son is disappointing. He lost 20 million in one night. Right now, other than you, who else can take out such a large sum of money to acquire Pleasure Group in such a short time?" As he spoke, the door of the room opened and the waiter's voice sounded. "Sir, please come in." A white-haired man walked in with the smell of alcohol. Although he was dressed in a suit, it still could not hide the decadence on his body. The dark circles under his eyes were especially serious. One look, and one could tell that he was sleep-deprived. "CEO Wen is here." The assistant stood up and greeted him. He did not show any displeasure at his lateness. "Sorry to have kept you waiting." When Bo glanced at Hong Rizhong, although his words were apologetic, he didn't look apologetic at all. Instead, he sat down across from Hong Rizhong and asked the waiter for a cup of tea. "It's okay. I just arrived too." Hong Rizhong took a sip of tea and put down the cup. "I don't have much time today. Let's get straight to the point. You should have seen the previous conditions. I'm willing to raise the price, but don't mention the shares again. You see, can't I tell the difference between a fishing rod and a fish?" Umbo sneered. "Do you think I'm short of money? What I want is future prospects. You're not the only one who wants to acquire Pleasure Group. But other companies may not have the ability to bring him back from the dead. Forget it." Umbo suddenly stood up. "Since you don't have much time today, there's no need to talk about it. Let's talk about it another day. I have something to do, so I'll leave first." His cold attitude was something that she had never seen before in the two previous meetings she had with him. Hong Rizhong's face froze and showed a somewhat stunned expression, but it was quickly drowned by his deep eyes. "Are you very busy today? I have an appointment to talk about something." When Bo stood up and brushed the dust off his suit, compared to the two wrinkled suits he wore during the discussion, today's outfit seemed to have been purposely cleaned up. Hong Rizhong became alert and asked tentatively, "Talk about something? What about it?" Umbo glanced at him, his words and actions full of pride. "Only you, CEO Hong, are allowed to talk about things, but I can't. Although I'm in dire straits now, Pleasure Group is such a big company. A starving camel is still bigger than a horse. There are many people who want to talk about business with me." As he spoke, he had already walked to the door of the private room. "I won't say much, I have to go. Let's talk about the acquisition another day." The assistant sent him to the door. When he turned back, he had a panicked look on his face. "CEO Hong, look at his attitude." Hong Rizhong's face darkened. "Follow him and see who he's meeting this afternoon. Think of a way to find out who has contacted him recently." "Yes." In a secluded and elegant small cafe, Sun Yanhua was wearing a blue suit, a pair of Gucci sunglasses between his slender fingers. He lowered the brim of his hat and held a cup of coffee in his other hand, looking very elegant and calm. The smell of alcohol opposite him hit him in the face, but his expression did not change. "I'm just doing this on behalf of someone else. You also know that the domestic media industry has a bright future. That's why my uncle wants to develop in the domestic market. However, it's not that easy to start one's own business. That's why he wanted to acquire it." Umbo raised his eyebrows. "That's natural. Pleasure Group is just temporarily avoiding the limelight. The previous rumors weren't very good. His internal operating mechanism and those big clients are all. You don't have to explain these to me. Su Nianhua looked at him with a half-smile. Chapter 508. Of course. Umbo's expression changed slightly. He lowered his head and coughed dryly. After all, it's Pleasure's own people. I won't say more. It's just that. Su Nianhua glanced at Umbo and said faintly, Mr. Wen, if you have something to say, just say it. Umbo laughed dryly and looked thought-provoking. Mr. Su, you have a good relationship with my nephew. It's inevitable that people will think too much when you mention the acquisition of Pleasure at this time. Don't tell me you want to help them in their hour of need at this time. Hearing this, the corners of Su Nianhua's mouth curled up, and an indifferent expression appeared on his face. If you want to provide timely help, you have to assess your own abilities. CEO Wen, you really overestimate me. If it weren't for my uncle's interest in the domestic media industry, I wouldn't have been able to interfere in the acquisition of Huanyu. I'm just a small-time actress. Umbo held the cup and drank tea, hiding the suspicion on his face. As for the acquisition of Pleasure, he naturally hoped that more people would come to compete for it, so that he could get more benefits from it. Previously, only Venture Media had extended an olive branch to him, so he didn't have much say in the price. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been in a deadlock for so long because of the equity issue. When Su Nianhua contacted him, he was worried about Venture Media insisting that he withdraw from Pleasure's contract. However, he still had to be cautious about whether he was really acting as a lobbyist for his uncle or if he had other motives. That's not what I meant. I just asked casually. When Bo smiled and put down his cup. Isn't it because I feel that if my nephew finds out that you're meddling in this matter, I'm afraid he'll lose face? Ling Han and I are just subordinates. I'm afraid Mr. Wen thinks too much of the relationship between the two of us. As he spoke, Su Nianhua lowered his head and glanced at his wrist. I still have work to do today. The specific contract is here. Take a look first. If there's anything you're not satisfied with, just call me. I'll tell my uncle. Umbo quickly stood up. Oh, okay. Seeing Su Nianhua hurriedly walk out of the coffee shop, Umbo's suspicion lessened a bit. From the beginning to the end, Su Nianhua did not show the slightest bit of anxiety, as if he really did have the attitude of helping someone. After leaving the cafe, Su Nianhua dialed a number. The call was picked up almost instantly. Yi Huanyan's voice came through. How was it? Did he believe you? About 70%. Su Nianhua lowered his voice. Even if he really believes you, when it's time to sign the contract, my uncle will sign it. I'm afraid it'll be easily exposed. That won't happen. Umbo doesn't know who your so-called uncle is. Not all of the subsidiaries of the Gu Corporation do business under the name of the Gu Corporation. Gu Lu will take care of these matters. I just need to trouble you to help me mediate with Umbo during this time. You don't have to be so polite with me. Okay. Umbo will probably think of a way to keep an eye on you. So before this matter's over, let's avoid suspicion and not see each other again. We'll find time to have dinner together later. Okay, Su Nianhua responded. I do have work to do tonight. After this matter is over, I want to take some time off. When the time comes, I'll ask Ling Han if he wants to bring Nanao out to play with us. If things go well, I'm afraid he'll be very busy. The two of them chatted on the phone for a while. They didn't dare to say much and hurriedly hung up the phone. The situation was set up by Ling Han. It was a trap to let the enemy fall into it. Or it was a matter of whether they could cross the sea under the guise of deceit. After hanging up the phone, Yi Huanyan turned to look at Ling Han. Isn't it inappropriate to ask Lu Shun to do this? Umbo will definitely suspect the relationship between the two of you and send someone to investigate thoroughly. We may not be able to cover up this lie. The man in front of the floor-to-ceiling window was tall. After Wen Yi's acupuncture took effect, the time he spent on his feet increased rapidly every day. Now, other than needing more rest at night, he was almost no different from an ordinary person. He looked out of the window with a serious expression. Do you know what it means to create a diversion? Yen Yen? First, he used Su Nianhua, who seemed to have a good relationship with him, to arouse Umbo's suspicion. He was bound to spend all his efforts on investigating the purpose of Su Nianhua's acquisition this time. When he exhausted his energy, no matter what he found, he would take advantage of the situation. What's the next step? Yi Huanyan leaned on the back of a sofa and looked at the figure in front of the floor-to-ceiling window. The next step is for me to talk to him. At this time, Hong Rizhang should have already found out about Su Nianhua's interference. I'm afraid he can't hold it in anymore and is preparing to meet with Umbo to discuss the pros and cons. Ling Han stood in front of the window and looked down at the entire central business district of Lanjiang City motionlessly. The view from the apartment on the top floor of Haiyan Media was very good. From here, he could see the top floor of the pleasure group in the distance, which was where he used to work. Ever since Ji Xiaoya was pregnant, the whole family had been hanging around her. Yi Huanyan wanted to help, but couldn't. Coincidentally, the pre-screening of Remaining Life was imminent, so she didn't care about the hospital anymore and focused on her work. Thinking about it, it seemed that she hadn't been back to the old mansion for a few days. She kept in contact with Ling Han by phone, so when Ling Han appeared here today, she was really surprised. Nothing was tidied up on the coffee table in the apartment, except for all kinds of movie materials. Afraid of losing them, even the cleaner, who came every day, didn't dare to touch them casually. It's 7 o'clock. Do you want to stay for dinner? Without waiting for his answer, Yi Huanyan glanced at her wrist. I've been eating takeout recently. There's nothing good to eat. It's better than drinking chicken soup every day. Ling Han turned around. After Xiaowa left, Sister 4 and Ling Zhan have been eating out every day. Because Ji Xiaoya was pregnant, the old mansion was also in chaos every day. Aunt Zhang was busy cooking for Ji Xiaoya every day and made all kinds of nourishing soups. Even Chun Yin, who was never a picky eater, couldn't take it anymore. She packed up her things and took Naneo on a trip to lie low for a while. Okay, Sister 4 and Ling Zhan don't have it easy either. They're here as guests, but they eat out every day. Yi Huanyan shook her head helplessly. When I'm done with my work, I'll cook for them myself. They sound so pitiful. While speaking, Yi Huanyan made a call. Gu Qi asked the secretary to add an extra portion of takeout later. The call was on speakerphone, so the internal line was directly connected to the assistant's office. Gu Qi's voice sounded a little muffled on the other end of the line, so he just responded with a lukewarm, okay, and hung up. Yi Huanyan originally wanted to ask him to bring up something else, but before she could say anything, she heard the busy tone beep. You're so busy with work? You don't even have time to answer the phone? Yi Huanyan mumbled and put down the phone. She turned to look at Ling Han and said, I wanted him to bring you a bottle of drink to cool you down, but now you can only drink plain water. Do you mind? Chapter 509. Ling Han glanced thoughtfully at the phone that was hung up. Who delivered the takeout to you these 2 days? The secretary. Yi Huanyan replied casually. The new secretary is the only one in the company who can't do anything. She can only deliver food. Don't you usually work in the office? I'm too lazy to move. Anyway, Gu Qi will deliver the documents that need to be signed. He delivers them personally? Of course, they're confidential documents. Yi Huanyan didn't seem to notice the slight change in Ling Han's mood. She yawned and flipped through the documents on the coffee table. She muttered, why are there so many roadshows? Not long after, the doorbell rang. Ling Han looked up and saw that Yi Huanyan didn't move. It wasn't that she didn't hear it, but she seemed to be used to it. The sound of the password being keyed in could be heard clearly. After a series of familiar beeps, the door opened automatically. Gu Qi's tall figure walked out from behind the door. Ling Han's eyes narrowed. Gu Qi glanced at him and put the 2 takeaways on the table. He said in a deep voice, Miss Liu, it's time to eat. Oh, I'm coming, just leave it. Yi Huanyan didn't even look up when she said this. The day after tomorrow, we're going to Jinling to promote. There's a meeting in the evening, and you need to attend. Okay, what time? Around 10:30. Okay. The two of them went back and forth, asking and answering questions. Ling Han sat on the sofa diagonally opposite Yi Huanyan. After Gucci left, his face was tense. Yi Huanyan closed the document in her hand, stretched, and walked towards a table. Let's go eat, I'm starving. You've been letting people from the company come and go as they please. Yi Huanyan put her hand on her waist and was slightly stunned. She turned around and saw Ling Han's side profile. There was only a floor lamp next to the sofa in the living room, so it wasn't very clear. You mean the password? Yes. Not everyone. Gucci and the secretary wanted to send me something, so only the two of them know. After saying this, she pulled out a chair, sat down, and opened the lunchbox. The sound of Ling Han getting up came from behind, and the sound of his footsteps gradually approached. It's not safe. There's nothing unsafe about it. I don't have any money here, and the confidential documents aren't with me. They're with Gucci. Ling Han's tone had already sunk to the bottom, carrying a strong sense of vigilance. Yi Huanyan finally realized that something was wrong. She hesitantly raised her head, and her gaze shifted 2 inches to Ling Han, who had already walked to her side. Why did you suddenly? Before she could finish her sentence, Yi Huanyan felt her thin shoulders suddenly sink. The chair shook twice, and her entire body fell into a broad chest. His clean and strong hand turned her chin, and then, when she was caught off guard, his slightly cold lips kissed her fiercely. The disposable chopsticks in her hand slipped on the table, knocking against the wood, and then fell on the carpet, making a muffled sound. His kiss was very fast and fierce, and she didn't even have a chance to react before all the air in her mouth was taken away. Gradually, she was out of breath, and gradually, there was a suffocating pleasure. Her lively eyes became blurred. He didn't say anything, and his large hands wandered around her body. Through the thin layer of home clothes, he vigorously rubbed her twin peaks. The folds of the clothes were like turbulent waves, rising and falling with his movements. Oh, she couldn't help but let out a moan. The moment her lips parted, she sucked in a breath of air, but it was quickly sealed. Her waist was numb to the touch. The moment the thin cocoon rubbed against her waist, a shuddering pleasure came, as if an electric current had passed through her entire body. He seemed to be a little impatient. While she was in a daze, he had already taken off her pants. A pair of large hands held her perky, and he carried her to the dining table. The marble surface of the dining table was reflective, reflecting the graceful figure of the woman and the actions of the man. Yi Huanyan couldn't help but cry out when the cold feeling came from below her body. She hurriedly hooked her arms around his neck, and her face was like a peach blossom, flushed red. Why are you today? Oh, Ling Han seemed to have made up his mind not to give her a chance to speak. He sealed her lips again, but his hands were not idle. With a click, the belt buckle made a crisp sound in the air. Following a muffled groan, the two were tightly glued together. Heavy breathing and the sound of copulation converged in the room. Yi Huanyan's home clothes buttons fell, revealing half of her slender white shoulders. One hand was supporting herself on the table behind her, and the other was hooked around Ling Han's neck. She was afraid that she would fall. Her entire body was controlled by him, and she couldn't stop even if she wanted to. It was probably since when he started doing acupuncture on him that the two of them hadn't done anything like this. If he hadn't taken the initiative today, Yi Huanyan would have been so busy with work that she would have forgotten that there was such a pleasurable thing in life. Ling Han panted, but the movements of his lower body became more and more violent. It was as if he wanted to knock her away. After an unknown amount of time, the woman under him didn't even have the strength to respond. Only then did he release her after a few thrusts. After that, Yi Huanyan leaned on his shoulder and was carried into the bathroom for a bath. The bathtub was full of hot water. After soaking in it, some of the swelling feeling disappeared. She leaned on the edge of the bathtub, letting Ling Han hold a towel and carefully wipe her back. "What's wrong with you today?" Yi Huanyan asked weakly. "Nothing. I miss you." Don't tell me you're jealous of Gucci. Yi Huanyan hit the nail on the head. Sure enough, the movements on her back stopped. It's true. She sighed and smiled. She tried to turn around, but someone pressed on her shoulder. I'm not jealous. I'm scared. The muffled voice from behind made Yi Huanyan's expression freeze. Scared? In her impression, Ling Han didn't seem to have anything to do with this word. Ever since she had known him, he had always been high and mighty. He was born with an arrogant aura, looking down on everyone. Even when her parents had made things difficult for him in the Four Seasons villa, she had never seen him show any cowardice. This word should have nothing to do with him since he was born. The sound of water floated, and she felt a pressure on her shoulder. He hugged her from behind, his hands wrapped around her chest. She could hear his breath beside her ear, and the surroundings were filled with dense water vapor. I'm scared. I, who have nothing, can finally understand how you felt 6 years ago. You were always worried that there would be someone by your side who could take you away. You were paranoid. You feel it. Yes. Yi Huanyan's voice was a little bitter. They used to test each other, but they rarely thought about it from each other's perspective. This kind of test, even if they got the reaction they wanted, how much damage would it cause to each other's hearts? Suspicion, uneasiness, and fear came one after another. Han, yes. I'll change the apartment password tomorrow. Chapter 510. Gucci waited until 10:10 p.m., but Mr. Gu still hadn't arrived. His secretary urged him, "Do you want me to go upstairs and call Mr. Gu?" Gucci looked down at his wrist and said calmly, "No need. Let's go straight to the meeting. Mr. Gu has been too tired for the past 2 days, so he's probably already asleep." The pre-screening of Remaining Life was scheduled for Saturday night. On the day of the pre-screening, all the actors were preparing to go to Jinling to promote the film. The leading actors included Sun Yanhua and Sheng Anren. The supporting actors included Chen Yin and the newcomer Baiyu. And the behind-the-scenes director and screenwriter Yi Huanyan had to attend. There had been a lot of things going on recently. Even though Yi Huanyan rarely left the apartment, he did stay up a few nights to promote the film, as well as to win some prizes for the activities on the day of the roadshow. By the time the meeting ended, it was already midnight. Those in the technical department who were supposed to be working overtime had already gone back to work. Gucci was the only one left in the office. After he walked out of the company building, he looked up at the top floor. The lights were dim and soon went out. He lit a cigarette and the smoke curled up. "Second brother," a man's voice came from the night sky. He was so scared that he trembled and dropped the ash on the ground. He turned around in displeasure, but when he saw who it was, he couldn't help but get angry. "Who is your second brother? You will be in the future." Someone licked his face and said flatteringly, "Second brother. When is Minmin coming back?" "What does it have to do with you whether she comes back or not?" "Of course it has to do with me. I have something to do. I don't have time to talk to you." Gucci impatiently put out the cigarette and threw it into the trash can next to him. He walked toward the garage without looking back. Song Xiaobo had been pestering him for a long time. After the incident at the villa, Gumin went back to the Four Seasons villa and didn't come back. He knew his younger sister the best. As long as she returned to the Four Seasons villa, other than the walkie-talkie, she would not have any other electronic devices. Therefore, this hacker, who could be considered a god-level programming expert, could not do anything to her. Wanting to contact Gumin was simply a fool's dream. He really looked down on this silly boy. He was a standard engineering guy who didn't know anything other than coding. Unfortunately, his sister was also this kind of person. Other than playing with rifles, pistols, and submachine guns, she didn't know anything else. If these two people were to live together, how would they live? He had already given Song Xiaobo a negative score, but this kid was very naive. Whenever he had time, he would pester him. He even set up Haiyan Media's access control to reject his facial recognition, but he still did not give up and waited outside every day. He was annoyed to death. Song Xiaobo followed him all the way to the garage. Gucci was really impatient. He turned around and said, "How many times have you seen Gu Min? Even if I manage to contact her, what can you say to her? Do you think she still remembers you?" Song Xiaobo pushed his glasses up. He was already dull, but now that he was stunned by Gu Qi's yelling, he was even more dull. Okay, don't bother me. Get lost." After saying this, Gu Qi got into the car and drove away. Song Xiaobo was left standing alone in the garage. He looked in the direction of the garage door and frowned. Even if they met, what should he say? Saturday morning. Yi Huanyan boarded the plane early in the morning and met up with the rest of the team at the airport to go to Jinling. Su Nianhua had recently appeared on a new singing variety show, and his popularity had risen. When he got off the plane, many fans greeted him at the airport and shouted Su Nianhua's name and slogans related to him. This scene reminded Yi Huanyan of his popularity when he held a concert 6 years ago. In the end, the security guard was afraid that there would be too many people at the airport and arranged for them to go through the Green Channel. At night, they waited in the theater lounge. Su Nianhua knocked on the door of Yi Huanyan's lounge with a worried expression. "What's wrong?" Yi Huanyan sat up and gestured for the makeup artist to leave first. Su Nianhua played the video on his phone to Yi Huanyan. "My assistant just gave me the video. This person has been following me for a few days. He should be Umbo's man. He's quite fast. This person has been following me from Lanjiang City to Jinling. He can't just want to see if I have anything to do with Linghan, right? Did he find out something?" "Find out what?" Yi Huanyan curled the corners of his mouth and revealed a contemptuous smile. "It's best if he found out something. Why don't we beat him at his own game?" The pre-screening was almost full. Until the end of the film, no one left their seats. There were many people crying. Many of them were couples who came together to watch, and countless of them cried in their boyfriend's arms. After the end of the film, when someone was about to get up, the lights in the theater suddenly turned off and it was pitch black. Voices of doubt rang out one after another. After about 5 seconds, the lights came back on. A sharp-eyed girl exclaimed, "Shang Anren," among this group of actors who came to participate in the promotion. Shang Anren was indeed the most famous. She had always been at odds with Guan Nai, so this time she was willing to be the supporting character. It became the biggest gimmick of this promotion. Also curious was Yi Huanyan, the rookie director. Everyone was very curious. Who was the female screenwriter who could write the Best Screenplay Award at the Golden Autumn Film Festival 2 years ago? What would her directorial debut be like this time? Yi Huanyan's appearance obviously didn't disappoint them. She stood between Shang Anren and Su Nianhua. Her appearance and figure were comparable to Shang Anren's. After a short burst of exclamations, the host coughed dryly and went on stage to maintain order. Okay, I know that everyone is very excited and can't wait to swarm onto the stage and ask for photos and hugs, right? Take note that there are boyfriends and girlfriends around you." The host was humorous and witty. He was a famous mouth of Jinling TV station. His words made the audience laugh. Yes, you didn't see wrong. This is the first road show of the remaining life crew. We didn't tell you in advance because we wanted to give a little surprise to the audience who came at midnight for the pre-screening. I think everyone has finished watching this movie. Do you think it's good? The microphone was aimed at the audience. "It's good," the audience said in unison. Then, "Do you remember the name of the main character?" Yes, there were all kinds of answers. Yi Huanyan stood behind the host and smiled with her head down. From the reaction of the female audience, this movie had a huge impact on Su Nianhua. Many girls had their eyes on Su Nianhua from beginning to end. "Then who is this?" The host deliberately pointed at Chun Yin and asked, "Do you know her?" Chun Yin was a newcomer. This was her first TV series. As the third female lead, it was easy for people to remember the name of the character, but it was difficult for them to remember the name of the character. The host's words were awkward and the atmosphere became a little cold. Chapter 511. Yi Huanyan was puzzled at first. Why was the host so careless? It was so unprofessional to make fun of a newcomer. She didn't realize what was going on until a girl shouted, "Spicy strip," from the audience. Chun-in played Guan Nai's good friend in the movie, the third female lead. Her nickname was Spicy Strip, and she was a very straightforward and likable character. Coincidentally, the character was a female taekwondo coach, so the audience loved her for her violent and simple way of educating people. It's said that the art of creating a character is to hide yourself. It seems that our Miss Chun-in has done this as soon as she debuted. If she meets fans at the airport in the future, they will all shout "Spicy Strip" in unison. The host made fun of her, and the audience laughed as well. Then it was Chun-yin's very serious self-introduction. Although she had already announced her debut and now had some small fans, she was still not well known. Her fan base was still those who liked to watch her martial arts competitions. Since she retired, those people paid less and less attention to her. This time, the host skipped the male and female leads and introduced Chun-in first. It was probably Gucci's intention in advance. He wanted to use this movie to gain some popularity for Chun-in. Fortunately, the character was likable and the response was good. The second half of the roadshow was the audience's question and answer session. After watching the movie, there were more people who asked Su Nianhua personal questions. The girls were all holding microphones with flushed faces. When they looked at Su Nianhua, their eyes were shining. "Brother Hua, have you officially moved from being a singer to acting? You are so good at acting. Why haven't you acted before?" These were all questions that could be expected in advance. Before the end, there was a small interlude. Someone asked Su Nianhua, "I heard that the director of Remaining Life, Miss Gu, personally asked Brother Hua to act in the movie. Did you know Miss Gu before?" Su Nianhua frowned. Just as he was about to deny it, a voice came from the side and cut off his words. "Yes, we were high school classmates and have known each other for more than 10 years. We have a very good relationship." The audience was in an uproar. Quite a number of people had previously seen the interview between Yi Huanyan and Su Nianhua. The chemistry between the two of them was extremely good, but when the program was broadcasted, Su Nianhua's popularity had not yet reached the heights after the movie, so it did not cause much of a stir. Previously, Brother Hua wrote a song for his first love. Could it be Director Gu? It wasn't strange for someone to ask this question. What was strange was that the person who asked this question was a man. Yi Huanyan glanced at the audience, a subtle light gathering in her eyes. The man who spoke seemed familiar. Gucci saw that the situation wasn't right and quickly signaled the host to change the topic. Fortunately, the time for the roadshow was long enough. The staff gave out gifts to the audience in turn. After satisfying some of the audience's requests for photos, the day's activities ended. On the way out of the theater, Yi Huanyan and Su Nianhua were in the same car. She hesitated for a long time before asking. "The man who asked the last question today, you noticed it too?" Su Nianhua looked worried. He took out his phone from his pocket and clicked on the video that he had shown Yi Huanyan in the dressing room. "It's him, right?" Yi Huanyan looked carefully and finally nodded. "It's him. If they were sent by Wenbo, would they be so bold as to ask us these questions?" Su Nianhua raised his doubts. Yi Huanyan was also puzzled. Logically speaking, if Umbo sent someone to follow them, no matter what they found, they should be careful. In the end, they should just inform Umbo of the results. If they were alarmed, they would be acting rashly and alerting the enemy. Gucci, the man last night, Yi Huanyan made a call. On the other end of the phone, Gucci's voice was exceptionally calm. "I've already sent someone to follow him. He seems to be staying in the same hotel as us and taking the same route back. Since he's so blatant, there's a high chance that he's not Umbo's man." "What do you mean?" "It's not hard to guess. Right now, there are many people who are interested in acquiring Huanyu, but those who are willing to spend their energy on it can be counted on one hand. You should know better than me the style of people who are willing to spend so much effort and openly provoke us." After hanging up the phone, Yi Huanyan glanced at Su Nianhua. "Can you guess?" Su Nianhua frowned. According to Gucci's analysis, it was already very obvious who this person was. Hong Rizhang is really impatient, Yi Huanyan said thoughtfully. It seems that he's determined to get Pleasure Group. Sun Yanhua raised his eyebrows and looked out of the window. What do you think he wants to do by sending this person? To sow discord and divide into factions. It was not a secret that Ling Han was the son-in-law of the Gu family. Although it had not been announced, everyone knew that they were together at the Fengshan charity banquet. Everyone knew in their hearts. Umbo also knew this. So Yi Huanyan could not buy Pleasure Group in the name of the Gu family. What Umbo did not know was her relationship with Sun Yanhua. Hong Rizhang was probably going to use this to make an issue out of it. She was close to Sun Yanhua, and she was Ling Han's fiancée. Naturally, she had to help Ling Han. So Sun Yanhua's purpose was obvious. I think that person must have sent the photos he took of us getting into the same car to Hong Rizhang. I'm afraid that Hong Rizhang will show these photos to Umbo tomorrow and directly expose your relationship with me. Yi Huanyan was very calm, which made Sun Yanhua's original worry disappear a little. You already have a way. Hong Rizhang must have already found out about our relationship. It's useless to explain. It's better to beat him at his own game. Lanjiang City. A ray of light appeared in the east. After Umbo woke up with the smell of alcohol, he was awakened by the woman next to him, who was only wearing a burgundy nightgown. Honey, someone is ringing the doorbell. Umbo turned over unhappily. It was very difficult for his old body to turn over. Go open the door when the doorbell rings. The woman next to him was in her early 20s. Hearing this, she yawned. I'm not going. Anyway, it's not looking for me. The last time your wife came here, I opened the door and almost scratched my face. What if it's her again this time? Umbo was sleeping soundly, and the most annoying thing was being nagged. When he heard this, he suddenly turned around and glared at her, growling. Are you done? I provide you with food and drink. I can't even order you to open the door. If you don't want to stay here, then get out of here. The woman was scolded and didn't dare to say anything. After a long time, the quilt on her body was pulled away. Knowing that she had angered the old man, she quickly got out of bed and put on the clothes with a stiff face and a smile. I'm just kidding. I'll go open the door. Don't be angry. Not long after, the woman went upstairs and stood at the head of the bed looking at the old man's back. She bent down and hesitantly patted his shoulder. Sir, the person is looking for you. Who is it? Umbo turned around unhappily. He said that his surname is Hong. Chapter 512. In the living room of the villa. The decoration was very luxurious and complicated. There were large clusters of flowers everywhere. It was obvious that the owner of the house did not have good taste. It could even be said to be tacky. The servant poured a cup of hot tea and placed it on the coffee table in front of the two of them. Then she left. Umbo looked like he was not fully awake. He seemed to be a little impatient with Hong Rizhang's visit. Sorry to disturb President Wen's rest. It's nothing. I drank a little last night and was not fully awake. If you have something to say, I can go back to sleep after you're done. Hong Rizhang's face stiffened. Umbo did not give him face because Sun Yanhua had talked to him about the acquisition. That gave him confidence. It was just that this confidence was probably just because he felt that he had enough. Thinking of this, a cold smile appeared in his eyes. I'm here this time because of the previous contract. You've thought about it for so long, but you haven't contacted me. Are you still not satisfied? Umbo raised a hand and looked contemptuous. I'll get straight to the point. The conditions that Venture Media gave before were too harsh and the price was too low. Pleasure Group is a century-old business. It has its reputation, which is priceless. There are people who know better than you. So if you insist on the same conditions as before, we don't have to talk about it. Hong Rizhang was not angry. He took out his briefcase, unzipped it, and took out a brown envelope. Why don't you see what I'm giving you first? I believe that as long as you see what I'm giving you, you'll change your mind. Umbo frowned and opened the envelope skeptically. He touched a stack of photos. This is your future niece-in-law and the outdated singer Su Nianhua, who talked to you about the acquisition. Hong Rizhang leaned back on the sofa with a mocking look on his face. What are you trying to say by giving me these? Umbo's expression changed. Su Nianhua and Gu Huanyan obviously knew each other for a long time. You sold the pleasure group to Su Nianhua. Have you thought it through? Are you selling it to him or to the person behind him? Everyone knows that Gu Huanyan is Ling Han's fiancé. Isn't it strange that she doesn't help Ling Han? This trick of saving the country in a roundabout way isn't very useful. How could you fall for it? Umbo's face immediately turned ashen. You said that Su Nianhua was sent by Gu Huanyan? Hong Rizhang raised his eyebrows as he looked at the envelope in front of him. It's obvious. When Hong Rizhang left, he was full of vigor. I advise CEO when to consider this matter carefully. Don't end up like a sheep in a tiger's den and unable to escape. After he left, there was a commotion in the living room. The woman came downstairs and exclaimed when she saw the mess on the floor. What's going on? The old master was very angry. Damn that Su Nianhua. He colluded with that bitch Gu Huanyan to lie to me. The woman stood on the stairs, looking at a loss. Su Nianhua? That singer? He's just AF * king actress. Umbo kicked the chair beside him hard, and there was a loud sound in the living room. 3 days later, at the Shanghai airport, Yi Huanyan and the others boarded the plane through the Green Channel, leaving behind the fans waiting at the airport. Su Nianhua's fans were not very eye-catching. The crazy ones were Chun Yin and Bai Yu's fans. After the road show at the Jinling Cinema ended, more than 1,000 high-quality movie ratings had been posted on the movie website. Basically, they were all 4-star reviews, and the ratings were quite high. The pre-screening in all the major cities had been a complete success. They flew straight from Jinling to Shanghai to participate in an interview program. During this time, a few short videos of Chun Yin and Bai Yu's interactions were posted on the internet. They directly formed a couple and made enough topics for the movie. On the plane back to Lanjiang from Shanghai, Su Nianhua and Yi Huanyan were in the same row. Umbo hasn't contacted me during this period of time. Are you sure he really believes the news? Yi Huanyan put on her sunglasses and smiled. I think instead of worrying about this, you should worry about how to explain it to Xiao Rou when you go back. Hearing this, Su Nianhua's face turned pale. There was a price to pay for acting first and reporting later. This time, when he went back, he would probably have to sleep in the study. Lanjiang City. In Umbo's private villa in the suburbs, a young woman was sitting on the sofa, eating melon seeds and watching the gossip. She laughed as she spat out the shells of the melon seeds. Look at you. 2 days ago, you were so angry that you were glaring at them, saying that they were in cahoots. That's true. Look, she's his first love. Previously, Su Nianhua wrote a song that I liked very much. He said that he wrote it for his first love. How can they not have a good relationship? I quite admire this Gu Huanyan. She has a fiancé at home and a gigolo outside. What, you have the same idea too? Umbo frowned and looked a bit displeased. That's not what I mean. I have you, that's enough. The woman immediately leaned forward and her full breasts were pressed against his arm. It was very soft through the shirt. Umbo was a bit restless. Do you think Su Nianhua will help Ling Han because of Gu Huanyan? Then do you think it's possible for you to help my ex-boyfriend for my sake? Umbo nodded thoughtfully. Suddenly, he felt that something was wrong. So he turned around and asked, Your ex-boyfriend? Who? Oh, I was just kidding. Don't take it seriously. The woman smiled charmingly and snuggled into his arms. Her low-cut dress was very eye-catching. This woman was a stunner and had a set of skills in bed. Every time she could serve him, he couldn't stop. Umbo was not young anymore. His son was already middle-aged, but he still couldn't get over women. He used to have a lot of canaries outside, but then something happened and he was short of money, so he let them all go. Only this one was left, and he couldn't bear to let her go. She was like a mountain of gold and silver. Recently, a few scandals about Su Nianhua and the director of Remaining Life had been trending. Su Nianhua was a celebrity, and needless to say, Gu Huanyan was even more so. The script she had written before had accumulated a lot of fans. If it weren't for the fact that the hot searches were removed quickly, it would have been the talk of the town by now. Although the rumors were refuted in time and the public relations were good, such a small trick still couldn't escape his eyes. He just paid some sponsorship money to the media that had exposed the news before, and everything was clear. Gu Huanyan actually had an affair with Su Nianhua. No wonder she had tried so hard to get him to star in a movie and make him popular. Maybe it was because of old feelings. Now that Ling Han had lost power, there were many people who wanted to hit him when he was down. The Gu family might not take him seriously. This second miss was obviously not easy to deal with. He didn't hear that she was married, but she already had a 5 or 6-year-old son. Her background was not very clean. Maybe the child was Su Nianhua's? Umbo thought to himself. If there was such a relationship, what was the possibility of her ex-boyfriend helping her current fiancé? As a man, he knew. Chapter 513. Spring River Garden Apartment. Su Nianhua got off the plane and rushed back home to beg for forgiveness. As soon as he got home, he was rebuffed. His wife changed the password of the door. He stood at the door and sent a WeChat message to his wife to ask her to open the door. Good Lord, he was blocked. The other party is not your friend. These words were exceptionally shocking to hear. Inside the house, Zheng Ro had flour on his hands. At the dining table in the living room, his obedient daughter, Jingjing, was doing her homework. However, her phone was pressed down on the homework book. Jingjing, I heard someone ring the doorbell. Go open the door and see who it is. Zheng Ro's voice came from the kitchen. Jingjing's mouth twitched as she called out in a drawn-out voice. Okay. Then, she ran to the door and stared at the doorbell in front of her for a long time. Just as she was thinking about how to turn off the doorbell, a suspicious voice came from behind. Jingjing, what are you doing? Why don't you open the door? She turned around and saw Zheng Ro with flour on his hands. He stood behind her and was about to walk past her to open the door. Don't open it. In a moment of desperation, Jingjing suddenly opened her hands and blocked the door like an eagle. Mommy, don't open it. What? Zheng Ro was confused. Why don't you move aside? Who is it? Did you see? It's a bad guy. As they spoke, Su Nianhua's voice came from the monitor. Xiao Ro, help me open the door. I'll explain the details to you when I come back. Zheng Ro frowned and quickly pulled his daughter's collar away. He wiped his other hand on his apron and opened the door. Hubby, why don't you come in yourself? Bad guy. Before Su Nianhua could answer, a certain child who was being held by the collar had already unhappily pouted and roared at his father with bared fangs and brandished claws. You bad guy, don't come to my house. What nonsense are you talking about? Zheng Ro pulled Jingjing aside and helped Su Nianhua to carry the luggage in. She closed the door and did not take her daughter's words seriously. Su Nianhua glanced at his calm and composed wife, then at his flustered and exasperated daughter. He more or less understood his current situation. Did you change the password? He looked at Jingjing and squatted down. Jingjing turned her head away angrily. I changed the password of my house. It has nothing to do with a bad person like you. How can you talk to your father like that? Zheng Ro glared at her daughter in dissatisfaction. What kind of TV series have you been watching recently? What kind of nonsense is that? Are you a drama queen? Su Nianhua raised his hand to signal Zheng Ro not to speak. Like magic, he pulled out a lollipop from behind him and handed it to Jingjing. Jingjing's favorite cola-flavored lollipop. Jingjing's eyes lit up when she saw the lollipop. Just as she was about to reach out to take it, Su Nianhua said, Your Auntie Yen asked me to bring it to you. She said it's a gift for you. Jingjing's expression changed when she heard this. She glared at the lollipop angrily. I don't want it. Su Nianhua sighed. Why not? Zheng Ro was confused. What's wrong with this child? Is it because she heard something from her classmates? She thinks that Auntie Yan Yan and Dad are bad people? Jingjing's eyes reddened when she heard this. They all said that Dad doesn't want me anymore. Dad is going to marry Auntie Yan Yan and have another baby. Sun Yanhua looked up at Zheng Ro. You haven't seen the news in the past 2 days, right? Zheng Ro shook his head. Cell phones emit radiation. It's not good for the child. Didn't you not let me watch it? Also, I've been busy studying recipes for the past 2 days. I didn't even answer my mom's calls. No wonder. Sun Yanhua sighed silently. He stood up and patted Jingjing's little head. Dad only has you and the baby in Mom's belly now. How can you doubt Dad so casually? And your Auntie Yan Yan. Didn't you say that you liked Auntie Yan Yan the most? Nanao always gives you snacks. Have you forgotten? Jingjing sobbed and looked at Sun Yanhua. She didn't understand. But what? But they all said that the person Dad likes the most is Auntie Yan Yan, not Mom. The little girl cried even more sadly. Sun Yanhua looked at Zheng Ro in a panic. Zheng Ro didn't seem to have much of a reaction. She just frowned and then smiled. This girl has watched too many TV dramas. Now she's sad. Xiaoro. Okay. Zheng Ro took a deep breath, took off her apron, and handed it to him. The dumplings are ready. Help me cook. No matter what the news is, I can roughly guess. I'll solve my daughter's problem. This little girl doesn't tell me anything now. She knows how to hide things from me at such a young age and act on her own. After saying that, Sun Yanhua was stuffed with a pink apron stained with flour. Zheng Ro bent down and carried her wailing daughter to the bedroom. She was 5 months pregnant and her body was a little weak. She had to support her waist. Her back was very gentle. Bathed in the afternoon sun, she looked very warm. His original worries disappeared in an instant. Sun Yanhua stood in the same place and smiled as he looked at the backs of the mother and daughter. The person he liked the most? Being questioned by his own daughter why the person he liked the most wasn't her mother made him feel a little sad. He felt sad for himself, and even more so for Zheng Ro. After so long, if they still didn't know who the other party liked the most, then these 6 years of being husband and wife existed in name only. Zheng Ro was also confused, angry, and unwilling. Even now, she still didn't see Yi Huanyan. There was definitely a gap, but it wasn't with him. That was enough. He didn't ask his wife to tolerate the whole world. It was enough that she just had to tolerate him. When the dumplings were in the pot, Zheng Ro's voice came from the bedroom. She gently guided her daughter and gradually calmed her crying. How could Daddy not like Mommy? Daddy likes Mommy the most. Then what about Auntie Yan Yan? Auntie Yan Yan is just Daddy's friend, just like how Uncle Remy is Mommy's friend. Jingjing, do you think Mommy likes Uncle Remy more than Daddy? But Uncle Remy is ugly. You can't say that about Uncle Remy. Anyway, a person can like many people in their life, but the person you choose to be by your side in the end is the one you like the most. A lifetime? What's a lifetime? When Jingjing grows up and has someone she likes, you'll know. Jingjing has someone she likes the most. Who? Nanao. Jingjing likes Nanao the most. Can it be someone else, baby? After a certain someone in the kitchen heard this conversation, the corners of his mouth curled up and he smiled helplessly. Chapter 514. The scandal between Sun Yanhua and Yi Huanyan was deliberately suppressed before it could ferment. One was an outdated male singer, and the other was a newly promoted female entrepreneur. It wasn't considered big news, so the media deliberately let it go and didn't pursue it. This made Umbo feel more at ease, but some people couldn't sit still. In the CEO's office of Venture Media, a folder fell from a table and hit the floor with a loud thud before sliding to the assistant's toes. Investigate Sun Yanhua's background and discuss the acquisition. Does he have the ability to do so? The assistant lowered his head and said fearfully, I've investigated a little. Sun Yanhua's original name was Lu Shun before he debuted. He was the only son of the former CEO of Chao Lu Medical Group. Later on, he probably fell out with his family and went abroad alone to enter the entertainment industry. A few years ago, Chao Lu Medical Group was involved in a medical incident. The Health Bureau intervened and caused the group to close down. The CEO fell ill. That's not what I want to hear. Hong Rizhang interrupted his assistant impatiently. What I want to hear is Su Nianhua's current family relationship, assets, and who commissioned him to do this acquisition. Pleasure Group is such a big pie. Can a down-and-out son like him eat it? The assistant shuddered in fear. After Hong Rizhang finished speaking, he snapped back to his senses and said with a trembling voice, "I'll investigate now." The sound of the door closing echoed in the office, and the things on the table fell to the ground with a crash. Hong Rizhang placed his hands on the table, his expression extremely gloomy. No one could take away what he wanted. He had to get it even if he had to resort to unscrupulous means. After returning to Lanjiang City from Shanghai, Yi Huanyan returned to Haiyan Media to work overtime. There were still many details to be settled on for the movie. After the meeting ended at night, Gu Qi and Yi Huanyan stayed in the meeting room to discuss the follow-up matters. It was already late at night. I was so busy that I didn't even have time for dinner. Yi Huanyan glanced at the night sky outside the window and sighed. After the movie ends, I'm going to take a break. You should have a good rest. How are things at the villa? Yi Huanyan asked. It's still under renovation. My brother said that we should take advantage of this opportunity to move all the places that were originally going to be renovated to one side, so that we won't have to endure the noise when we move in. All right, that's good too. My parents can stay in China for a while, but my brother and Xiao Yu's wedding will probably be postponed again. Yi Huanyan stood up and rubbed her stomach. Let's go for supper. Gu Qi smiled. I happen to know a small shop that has a very good business. If you go there at this time, the stall should still be open. It's near the old house, so it's convenient for you to go home and rest tonight. Really? Yi Huanyan's eyes showed some surprise. Compared with Ling Han's, I'll take you to a place to eat. She preferred Gu Qi's words. A stomach that was used to eating roadside snacks was a bit out of place for Ling Han, who liked exquisite restaurants. A roadside stall was more suitable for her. The stall that Gu Qi mentioned was 2 streets away from the old house. There was a shelter with a rainproof plastic sheet on the side of the road. The mist was dense. There was barbecue outside, and mutton soup was stewing inside. A bowl of mutton soup in the winter could be said to be very warm. The mutton here is very fresh. The mutton soup has been stewing for a long time. Gu Qi took 2 pieces of tissue to wipe the table and asked Yi Huanyan to sit down. Boss, 2 bowls of mutton soup noodles. Okay, you're here again. Is this your girlfriend? My boss. Gu Qi smiled. Yo, the boss is so young. The boss's wife was round and looked very fat. Hearing that, she laughed happily and asked her husband to bring in some mutton skewers. The noodles need to be cooked for a while. Eat some mutton skewers first. Her husband brought in a plate of mutton skewers. Thank you. Gu Qi took it with a smile. You're welcome. Yi Huanyan took a skewer and took a bite. It was soft and juicy. It was roasted just right. Wow, it's delicious. I lived here when I was young. I didn't even know. How did you find this shop? I sleep late at night and have a habit of eating supper. After walking around for a long time, you'll know. This place was actually quite hidden. People who came here either had a sharp nose or were really bored to walk along the alley for a long time. Yi Huanyan ate 2 mutton skewers. When she was about to take the 3rd one, she was stopped by Gu Qi. Eat less. The taste is too strong. You won't be able to taste the mutton soup later. You're quite particular. Yi Huanyan laughed, but her hands didn't stop. I'm starving. Let's eat first. Before Gu Qi could stop her, 2 mutton skewers went into Yi Huanyan's mouth. She was immersed in eating when a familiar voice suddenly came from outside the shed. It's here. I found this place when I was lost. It's been open for many years. The taste is really good. I strongly recommend it. The youth's voice was slightly immature, but it was full of vitality. Even in this sleepy night, when one heard it, one would feel as if a stream of clear spring water slowly flowed past, making one's mind clear and awake. The female voice that responded was different. It was gentle and soft, but there was no lack of sonorous texture. A thin layer of metallic sound. If there was more, it would sound rough. If there was less, it would sound pretentious. I don't eat roadside stalls often, but Yen Yen likes it. I've eaten with her twice before. Roadside stalls are a little worse. You don't mind, right? It's fine. It's not like I was spoiled growing up. Yi Huanyan was about to get up when she suddenly heard a voice cut into the conversation. It was very penetrating, with a bit of arrogance and ecstasy. Well, you left me behind just to sneak out to eat in the middle of the night. Brother, you're too mean. Brother? Yi Huanyan smiled. Ling Li had been living in the old house for some time, but she had been very busy during this period of time. She only met Ji Xiaoya in a hurry the next morning after she found out that Ji Xiaoya was pregnant and had breakfast with her. During that breakfast, Ji Xiaoya looked guilty and didn't even dare to look at her. Yi Huanyan didn't know why. After that, she was busy with work. Thinking of this, she didn't say anything serious. Just as she was thinking, the three of them walked in noisily. They sat down opposite Yi Huanyan and the others through the mutton soup stove. Through the steam and smoke from the stove, if one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't notice Yi Huanyan and the others. He is Miss Fu and Ling Han's cousin. Aren't you going to greet him? Gu Qi lowered his voice and asked. Yi Huanyan raised her head and put her right index finger to her lips, making a shushing gesture. She raised her eyebrows and smiled. Wait a moment. When did Ling Zhan get so close to Fu Yingxiang? And Ling Li's words just now were very ambiguous. Chapter 5:15. Sitting at the best vantage point to observe her closest friends was indeed an exciting thing. Yi Huanyan did not intend to eavesdrop, but Ling Li had no filter at all. As soon as she sat down, she blurted out, "You two didn't come back for 2 nights. Where did you go? Why don't you tell me the truth? You didn't sleep for the whole night. How do you know we didn't come back for the whole night?" Ling Zhan retorted angrily. She could see his slightly red face through the steam. "Yeah, I didn't sleep for the whole night. Coincidentally, your sister played games for the whole night. There was no sound outside the house at all. Okay, you're just a little girl. Why are you asking so many questions? If you ask again, hurry back to America. Tisk, brother, you're anxious." Ling Li blinked and stood between the two of them. Just as she was about to sit down, she suddenly exclaimed in a tone full of disdain. "This place is too dirty. Brother, you should have brought Sister Xiaoying here to eat. You deserve to be single." Yi Huanyan did not notice that Gu Qi's eyebrows trembled when he heard this sentence. There was a moment of stiffness in his eyes. Yi Huanyan lowered her head and smiled. At this time, the mutton noodle soup was served. The figure of a lady boss blocked their view, so they could not see Ling Zhan's table. Ling Zhan blushed, which was rare for him. The night before, he and Fu Yingxiang did not go home. In the past, he felt that there was no such thing as fate in this world. Everything was created subconsciously by people. But after meeting her, he suddenly felt that this thing might really exist. From meeting by chance at the airport, taking the same taxi to the same place, to living under the same roof every day, to the celebration at the bar after the academic conference, and meeting her again, all of these were coincidences. But when there were too many coincidences, it became fate. "Aren't you going to say hello?" Gu Qi asked. Yi Huanyan was eating noodles and shook her head when she heard this. "Eat the noodles first. It won't make a difference." Gossip was more important than anything else. From the moment Ling Li started to make jokes, Ling Zhan's somewhat impatient attitude clearly showed his attitude. But from the start to the end, Fu Yingxiang did not express her opinion. Actually, it was no wonder. The age gap between the two of them was not small, and from the way Fu Yingxiang looked at it, she did not like Ling Zhan's type. Therefore, Yi Huanyan wanted to study it a little longer. Why do I feel like everything has changed after we went on a road trip? Not long ago, Fu Yingxiang said that she was tired of living in China and wanted to go back to Macau. Looking at the situation now, it was likely that he was going to stay here permanently. A bowl of mutton noodle soup, accompanied by the gossip behind the stove, made him feel comfortable all over. Ling Li, who was sitting at the next table, had been nitpicking at the roadside stalls. This one was dirty, this one looked unhygienic, and she casually said that she would definitely have diarrhea tonight. She didn't care that there were still a bunch of men and women sitting at the roadside stalls who had come to eat supper. They had already cast angry glances at her many times. Shut up if you don't want to eat. Ling Zhan finally couldn't stand her sister's nitpicking and couldn't help but scold her. I'm just saying, if your stomach is not very good, it's better not to eat the food here. I have pastries in my room that my friend brought over yesterday. You can go back and eat them as supper. Fu Yingxiang's voice was unusually gentle. Ling Li, however, was not a kind person. This girl was a little wolf dog who might not even accept a meat bun given to her. I'm on a diet. Fu Yingxiang smiled. You're not fat. Ling Li raised her eyebrows. Women always say that others are not fat. In fact, it's a kind of psychological competition. You have more self-control than anyone else when you eat. For example, you look at the 20 mutton skewers, but in the past 10 minutes, you only ate this one. To be precise, you only ate one bite. Ling Li, are you done? Ling Zhan interrupted Ling Li and looked nervously at Fu Yingxiang. She was still calm and collected, with the wisdom and magnanimity befitting her age. She didn't take Ling Li's provocation to heart at all. Instead, she put down the mutton skewers in her hand and smiled. I just think that if I eat too many mutton skewers, it will affect the taste of my mutton noodle soup later. Do you dare to say that you can eat an entire bowl? Depends on my mood. TSK, Ling Li's face was full of disdain. If you're a woman, you won't even dare to eat such a big bowl of mutton noodle soup. Do you still want your figure? Hearing this, Yi Huanyan subconsciously lowered her head to look at the bottom of her bowl with half a mouthful of noodles left. She silently placed her chopsticks on the bowl and revealed an embarrassed smile to Gu Qi. Diet is not the only way to maintain a figure. Fu Yingxiang smiled. If you know where your brother and I went the night before yesterday, you won't ask me this question. Where? Ling Li stared at her with her round eyes. Let's talk about it after you finish this bowl of noodles. Fu Yingxiang's expression was a little mysterious. She smiled and took the bowl of noodles from the owner's wife. She glanced at Ling Li meaningfully. Ling Zhan, on the opposite side, had already handed over the disposable chopsticks and glared at his sister fiercely. Since Ling Li moved into the old house, Ling Zhan glared at him so often that he felt his eyes ache every night before he went to bed. Why are you so sneaky? There must be something going on between you two. Ling Li curled her lips. Are you going to eat or not? If you're not going to eat, go home first. Ling Zhan put the bowl of noodles in front of her heavily, and there was a hint of anger in her eyes. Yi Huanyan's table paid the bill and left. On the way back, Gu Qi drove the car and asked with a smile, "Why didn't you say hello to them? You should have at least said hello to them after they finished eating." To avoid embarrassment, Yi Huanyan's voice came from the back seat. "Look at Ling Zhan and my fourth sister. They hid from Ling Li to have supper in the middle of the night, which means that they don't want to disclose their relationship for the time being. Maybe it's just the beginning of the ambiguous relationship, or maybe it's not stable, or they don't want to have a relationship in the future, or maybe it's a combination of both. With Ling Li around, they can't stand it. So we can only pretend to be deaf and dumb now." "Yes." Yi Huanyan sighed. "Fortunately, I don't come back often. Everyone in the family is hanging around Xiaoyu, so I don't think anyone will notice them. It's just that it's been a long time, and I'm afraid they won't be able to keep it a secret if they develop further. It's normal that Ling Zhan doesn't know about this kind of thing. In fact, my fourth sister will be the one to decide." It was not scary to be in a relationship with a younger man, but it was scary to have a family member who strongly opposed it. Fu Yingxiang's parents had passed away many years ago, so she did not have such concerns, but Ling Zhan did. Fu Yingxiang was about the same age as Chris. Even if age was not the biggest obstacle, Fu Yingxiang's resistance to the issue of age would be an obstacle between the two of them. Based on your understanding of men, how serious do you think Ling Zhan is about my fourth sister? Yi Huanyan suddenly asked. Chapter 5:16. Guqi's expression was reflected in the rearview mirror. When he heard Yi Huanyan's question, he was stunned for a few seconds. You should be more familiar with Ling Zhan than I am. But I'm not a man. From a man's point of view, Guqi took a deep breath. I think I need to understand the process of how he met Miss Fu and the time they spent together. I need to know the details of what happened between them before I can make an accurate deduction. How about a rough deduction? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? 10. Yi Huanyan frowned and showed a surprised expression. Why? He is young and hot-blooded. He has never been in a relationship before. When it comes to his first relationship, he is always so serious and selfless. That's what I felt just now. Even in front of his closest sister, he is so serious about protecting Miss Fu. Young and hot-blooded. Indeed, you can't deny the hot-bloodedness and seriousness of a relationship. When he loves you seriously, but when he leaves, he is also serious. Gu Cheng's words were no different from not saying anything, but it awakened Yi Huanyan's worry in her heart. She was worried about Fu Yingxiang. She was 40 years old and not young anymore. Although she still looked like an otherworldly beauty, her heart had suffered an irreparable injury. She couldn't afford to be hurt a second time. Yi Huanyan suddenly started to worry. Guqi, who was in the driver's seat, saw Yi Huanyan's expression from the rearview mirror and frowned slightly. Second miss, are you worried about Miss Fu? Actually, if you put yourself in her shoes, when second miss insisted on being with Mr. Ling after returning to China, young madam should have been worried about you too. I'm afraid that she was more worried than you are about Miss Fu now. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. Guqi was right. When she made the decision to come back and look for Ling Han, not only was Ji Xiaoya worried for her, but the entire Four Seasons villa was worried for her. At the end of the day, when it came to matters of the heart, be it happiness or unhappiness, joy or sadness, it was something one was willing to bear. Other people could not make any decisions. After thinking it through, Yi Huanyan let out a sigh of relief. It was late at night. When he returned to the old house, the full moon was already hanging high in the sky. The night was dark. Ling Zhan, his sister, and Fu Yingxiang had not returned yet. In order to take care of Ji Xiaoya, when he simply moved to a hotel apartment in the city center. Naturally, Gu Heng was worried and followed her. Chun Yin had just become popular these 2 days and was busy with live streaming, so there were not many people left in the old mansion. When he stepped into the courtyard, there was not a trace of light in sight. It seemed a little desolate. Yi Huanyan took a deep breath. She did not expect that when she returned, no one would come out to greet her. When she left, this place was crowded, but when she returned, it was so empty. The noodles are too bland. A tender voice came from the direction of the small kitchen in the courtyard. Yi Huanyan paused and looked in the direction of the voice. Only then did she see a flickering light in the direction of the small kitchen. She was slightly stunned. Stepping on the snow on the ground, she walked toward the small kitchen. Through the window, she could faintly see a figure in the kitchen. Na Neo was sitting on a small stool. In front of him was a bowl of freshly made noodles, which were steaming hot, on the short table in front of him. He took a bite and complained about it. This is not handmade noodles. It's not the same as Aunt Zhang's at all. There's no time to make noodles now. Eat this first. His deep voice was filled with tenderness. Yi Huanyan's heart warmed. She pushed open the door and entered. If you continue to spoil him like this, what will happen? The father and son, sitting behind the short table, raised their heads at the same time, revealing astonished gazes. Na Neo was the first to cry out in surprise. He threw down his chopsticks and threw himself into Yi Huanyan's arms. "Mommy, you're back." Yi Huanyan staggered when he bumped into her. She helplessly patted his little head. "When I wasn't around, you bullied your daddy like this. Did you forget what I said before I left?" "No, I didn't." Na Neo pouted and said aggrievedly, "It's because Daddy's noodles are too disgusting. They're not handmade noodles. And they're really bland. I'm sure he didn't put any salt." "How disgusting can it be? It's just a bowl of noodles." Yi Huanyan scratched her son's nose. "Don't complain first." Ling Han also stood up. He was wearing a light gray sweater with his shirt collar exposed. He matched it with a pair of comfortable beige home pants. When he saw Yi Huanyan come back, he was originally happy. However, after being criticized by his son, he suddenly felt a little embarrassed. The appearance of this bowl of noodles was really not good. It was soft lying in the bowl. It was obvious that it had been cooked for too long. The noodles were lumpy, and even the leaves of the vegetables were yellow. It was very disgusting to look at. "It's my fault for not being a good cook." Tonight, Aunt Zhang went home after making dinner. There aren't many people in the old mansion. Na Neo said he was hungry, so I cooked. Otherwise, I wouldn't let him eat this. It's the middle of the night. You really know how to pick a time. Yi Huanyan scratched her son's nose. "Okay, don't make a bitter face. I'm back. I'll make supper for you too." "No, you're back. Go and rest." Ling Han subconsciously wanted to stop her. Yi Huanyan raised her eyebrows and smiled mischievously. "If you don't eat, I'll make it for Nano. There's no share for you." With that, she took off her coat and put it on the chair next to her. She turned around and opened the vertical refrigerator in the kitchen. She took out 2 red tomatoes. "Let's cover the noodles with tomatoes and eggs." "It's too late. It's better to make it plain." Ling Han stood where he was. Seeing that he couldn't stop her, he could only smile helplessly. "Won't it be troublesome if there's one more person?" Yi Huanyan smiled knowingly and glanced at the sink. "If there's someone to help, it should be twice the result with half the effort." Ling Han rolled up his sleeves and walked toward the sink. "I'm happy to help." Now sat down on the small stool and propped up her chubby cheeks with her hands. She looked up at her parents, who were busy in front of the stove with an expressionless face. There was a trace of warmth in her originally indifferent eyes, which gradually melted and softened her whole face. In the Lanjiang International Hotel, a woman in a nightgown walked out of the bathroom. Her wet black hair was draped over her shoulders. She casually combed it and threw it behind her head, revealing her fair and beautiful swan neck. The sound of a man on the phone coming from the bedroom attracted her attention. "Damn it, how do you do things? Is it difficult for you to investigate Sun Yanhua's family? Are the people from the Archives Bureau so difficult to get rid of? Don't King talk to me about money. How much money have we spent? It's just Sun Yanhua. Do you think I don't know how long Chao Lu Corporation has been out of business? He's just an outdated singer. He's just an actress. Who can support him? There are only 3 days until the final negotiation. I'll give you 2 more days at most. Give me complete information. Otherwise, you and your team will pack up and get lost." Chapter 517. The yes man on the other end of the phone made Hong Rizhang more and more irritated. When he hung up the phone, he slammed it on the ground. However, the bedroom was covered with a thick carpet. Except for a muffled sound, there was no other sound. The fall did not show any momentum. Instead, it made him feel even more suffocated. "Do you have to be so angry?" A woman's coquettish voice came from the door. Hong Rizhang turned his head and saw the enchanting figure leaning against the door frame. She was wrapped in a pure white bathrobe, revealing half of her white shoulders. Her face was very pure, and there was a mature charm in this innocence. She was looking at him with shimmering eyes. Hong Rizhang only felt his throat tighten, and his heart rippled. "It's about the company. Let's not talk about it. Come, sit." As he spoke, he patted the spot beside him. The woman stepped on the carpet barefooted, casually wiping her wet hair. When she walked towards Hong Rizhong, it was as if she was defenseless. Her gait was light and graceful. Just as she reached the bedside, she cried out in surprise. She was pulled over and pressed on the bed. His impatient hands reached into her bathrobe and violently ravaged her breasts. In a panic, the woman turned her head to avoid his kiss and groaned. "Why are you in such a hurry? Wait a minute. Did something happen to the acquisition?" However, Hong Rizhong was like a ferocious beast, eager to vent his anger and desire. He had no intention of stopping. While tearing off all the restraints on the woman, he unbuckled his belt. "You're already dressed like this, baby. Can I still wait?" The woman was uncomfortable by his touch. She frowned unhappily, closed her eyes, and let him grope her body for a moment. Then, she gritted her teeth and raised her knees. A man's muffled groan echoed in the room. It was very mournful, and one could hear that it was full of pain. Hong Rizhong covered his lower body and squatted on the edge of the bed. He looked up at the naked woman on the bed in disbelief. "Bitch, you mother **her. The pain came in waves, leaving him no room to fight back. He could only cover his crotch and couldn't move. "Whether I'm horny or not is my business. Whether I sleep or when I sleep is up to me. If you want to force yourself on me, why don't you look in the mirror and see what you look like? Disgusting." The woman's voice was full of disgust. She got up from the bed unhurriedly and showed a contemptuous look at the man under the bed with a cold face. Then she felt for the man's suit jacket beside the bed and took out the cigarette box and lighter with ease. After the cigarette was lit between her fingers, the woman slowly exhaled a puff of smoke from her thin lips to cover the disgust in her eyes. Then she said calmly, "I'm asking you, is there a problem with the acquisition?" At this moment, Hong Rizhong's pain subsided slightly. He stood up with difficulty and clenched his fingers. "You still have the nerve to ask me? If you hadn't told me that Pleasure Group was unable to fight back and that no one in Lanjiang City would take the risk of offending the Gu family to acquire Pleasure Group, I would have done it. Now, Sun Yanhua has appeared out of nowhere. That outdated singer? Yi Huanyan's old lover?" The woman sneered. "He's just a paper tiger. What do you think he's capable of? The problem is that Umbo believes him now. He's been avoiding me for 2 days. Doesn't that mean that he wants to hand over the acquisition of Pleasure Group to him? Umbo is brainless. He dared to cut off his own path of retreat just because he gave him some empty promises. You should tear Sun Yanhua's face open and let him see what it means to have a good appearance." "Tear? How?" Hong Rizhong's face darkened. The pain had almost disappeared, but the waves of pain still reminded him that the woman in front of him was a poisonous scorpion and not a kind person. He clenched his fingers and said angrily, "Compared to this, shouldn't you explain to me what you meant just now? I'm the one who provides for you. How dare you lay a hand on me? Do you think I'm one of those prostitutes who sells her body to accompany you?" The woman's expression changed and she glanced at him unhappily. "That's not the deal I made with you. Are you telling me that the acquisition of Pleasure Group is the right way to go?" Hong Rizhong sneered and pushed the woman onto the bed. He grabbed her chin and scolded. "You call that a deal? You don't know how many women are dying to be taken care of by me. Don't be a F** king whore. When I took you out of the nightclub, you begged me to F***ck you. You're a B** tch who grew up in a brothel. If you're not a F** king whore, who is?" The woman's face turned pale. Her chin hurt because of his grip. She said anxiously, "I have Sun Yanhua's overseas family background." Hearing that, Hong Rizhong's expression changed and he loosened his grip a little. This woman was not simple. He knew it when he brought her back from the nightclub. Whether it was her background or her scheming, this woman was not the kind of woman he used to play with. Sun Yanhua only has one uncle overseas. His uncle's assets are indeed rich, but if he uses the excuse of expanding the domestic media market on behalf of his uncle to deceive Umbo, it's too clumsy. Chao Lu Medical Group's bankruptcy was caused by his uncle. It's just that Su Nianhua's father cares about his face and refuses to tell others. Plus, his uncle has been overseas all the time, so no one knows the details. So what do you mean? Hong Rizhang's eyes froze. As long as I tell Umbo that Su Nianhua's so-called uncle is an enemy who indirectly killed his father, Umbo will never believe him and make a deal with him again? That's right. The woman breathed a sigh of relief and secretly tugged at the bathrobe in front of her chest. So the most important thing now is to find Su Nianhua's uncle and get him to say that he has no contact with Su Nianhua. Then everything will be true. Hong Rizhang nodded thoughtfully. Now, can you let go of me? This news is a chance for you. The moment the force on her chin suddenly tightened, the woman screamed and struggled. What are you doing? Hong Rizhang sneered and returned to his previous contemptuous expression. Gu Duo, do you still think you're the second daughter of the Gu family? At the end of the day, you're just a prostitute. If you don't rely on me now, can you survive in Lanjiang City? Don't talk about giving me this little information. Even if you really have the ability to directly help me win the pleasure of pleasure, I still have to CKU. After saying that, the sound of cloth tearing rang out in the air. The silk panties were torn into pieces in his large hands. The huge thing under the belt that had long been unbuckled directly entered. A shrill cry rang out in the room. Ah! You're still so tight even after doing it so many times. Baby, you're really a stunner. The man's obscenities brushed past her ears. Her slender fingers gripped the bedsheets beneath her. Chapter 518. With the violent thrusts of the man, the sheets under her body were clenched tighter and tighter by her slender fingers. The painful expression on Gu Duo's face gradually turned into enjoyment and joy. She arched her body and catered to the man on top of her, but closed her eyes, as if she was feeling something else. She looked obsessed. At dawn, Yi Huanyan walked out of the bedroom and stretched. The opposite window happened to open, revealing Ling Han's figure. Morning, the two of them spoke in unison. After supper last night, Nanao made a fuss about wanting to sleep with his mommy. The bed in the room was big enough for 3 people to sleep, but he insisted that his daddy snored at night and refused to sleep with Ling Han. Yi Huanyan had no choice but to sleep in Nanao's room. Not long after she fell asleep, she heard a noise in the courtyard. Fu Yingxiang and the others came back. Ling Li's voice was the loudest. He exclaimed, "The smell of scrambled eggs with tomatoes," who turned on the fire. In the end, he was probably patted on the head by Ling Zhan, so he calmed down and went into the room to rest. "I'm going to prepare breakfast. Do you want to help?" Yi Huanyan turned around and closed the door to prevent the cold wind from blowing into the room and freezing the little tyrant of the family. While they were talking, Ling Han had already opened the door and came out. His low voice echoed in the snow-covered courtyard with a bit of winter chill. "What can I do? What can I do? Cut the radish or something?" Yi Huanyan turned around and smiled gently. Yes. The basement of the old house was connected to the floor heating. From every room to the kitchen, it was as warm as spring. Because there were no elders living in the old house recently, after cooking, they didn't bring food to the dining room. The two sat down at the small table where they had supper last night. Each of them had a bowl of assorted ham congee and were very satisfied. The first one to sneak in was Ling Li, who had a sharp nose. As soon as he entered the house, he started shouting, "Great, you guys gave me special treatment behind my back. I told you that someone secretly opened a fire in the kitchen last night. Yi Huanyan, why didn't you tell me you were coming back?" Yi Huanyan looked up at her and said with a smile, "Let me tell you. Will you pick me up at the airport or just wait at home for me to cook for you?" Ling Li raised his eyebrows. "Don't tease me. My brother doesn't know anything. All he does is hold a bowl and wait for you to cook." "Hey," Yi Huanyan corrected Ling Li. "Your brother actually contributed a lot to today's meal. He contributed half of it. It could be said that he cooked it all by himself." "Ah, Ling Li had already walked to the stove and was about to scoop the congee. When he heard this, he frowned nervously. Can we still eat? Ling Han looked up at Ling Li's back and said, You still have time to choose to go back to sleep. I'm just kidding. Let's eat. Aunt Zhang is on vacation for the new year, and we don't know when she'll be back. Yi Huanyan doesn't know how long she'll be on vacation this time. We'll eat as much as we can. When it gets cold later, we won't be able to order takeout. You make it sound so tragic. Why didn't you consider learning to cook yourself? You're still lazy. After Yi Huanyan said that, she exchanged a look with Ling Han. Ling Han continued, lazy to the point of becoming a demon. Ling Li held the bowl of congee and jumped in front of the stove. You guys are colluding with each other. Yi Huanyan glanced at her and said, Why don't you say that snakes and mice are in the same nest? You even scolded yourself at the same time. We're family, aren't we? You. Ling Li was rendered speechless by Yi Huanyan and his wife when a cold wind blew through the hall. Fu Yingxiang's face appeared behind the curtain. She walked in with a smile. I said that I smelled a fragrance and heard voices. Yan, when did you come back last night? Last night, Yi Huanyan raised her eyebrows and asked knowingly. Last night, I had supper with Guqi nearby and came back around midnight. You were all asleep at that time, right? I didn't hear anything at all. Fu Yingxiang's expression froze. She lowered her gaze and avoided Yi Huanyan's mischievous gaze. She walked directly to the stove and changed the topic easily. You're busy enough to cook for everyone as soon as you come back. A pot of congee shouldn't be enough. It's still early, so I'll make some snacks for everyone. The noodles were left in the kitchen to ferment the night before. Yi Huanyan didn't notice it before, but now that Fu Yingxiang opened the lid and took it out in the hottest part of the floor, she revealed a surprised expression. You really don't treat yourself as a guest. Let me do this, Sister Ling. Yi Huanyan put down the bowl and chopsticks and got up to help. Ling Han knew that he couldn't help much with making snacks, so he did move. He glanced at Ling Li. You should learn something. Everyone has their own unique skills. You're just waiting to starve to death in the future. Ling Li raised her eyebrows and her big round eyes looked around. These are all daughters-in-law who are going to marry into our family. That's why they are hardworking. I'm the eldest miss. Before he could finish his words, Yi Huanyan wiped the flour off his nose with the back of her hand. Eldest miss, with your threatening manner, I really need to consider it. It's very troublesome if you don't get along well with your sisters-in-law after marriage. It's better to forget about it early. Yi Huanyan didn't take Fu Yingxiang into consideration when she said this. Instead, she used a joke to cover up the words that Ling Li had just blurted out. Some things were taboo to joke about when the person involved hadn't been exposed. Ling Li wasn't a fool. She probably realized that Fu Yingxiang's expression wasn't too good, so she shut her mouth. She picked up a piece of dough and carried the bowl of porridge, saying that she was going to Nanao's room to wake him up. This girl, she doesn't have a filter on her mouth. Just ignore her. Yi Huanyan learned from Fu Yingxiang and made a petal-shaped snack. She sprinkled osmanthus and dates in the center of the 5 petals, and then placed it in the steamer basket. Fu Yingxiang was very focused when she was making the snack. When she heard Yi Huanyan's words, she didn't have much of a reaction and just smiled. What's there to be calculative about with a child? It's nothing. They're siblings and are quite fun to play with. These words made Yi Huanyan's heart skip a beat. It was obvious that she was drawing a line between them. Fu Yingxiang wasn't someone who would say one thing in front of others and another behind their backs. She probably felt embarrassed after hearing what Ling Li said in front of everyone. She also started to feel conflicted about the ambiguous interactions she had with Ling Zhan these days. But there were some bad things. Yi Huanyan was about to say something when the kitchen door opened. Another person came in. The youth's unique cool voice made people feel refreshed. First, she saw Ling Han sitting on the stool. After greeting him, she turned to look at the stove. Her voice carried a bit of excitement. Sister Yan, Sister Xiaoling, you're up so early? What are you doing? This can be put in the steamer basket. Chapter 519. Fu Yingxiang obviously ignored Ling Zhan. She even hurriedly put the half-formed desserts into the steamer basket. Then she hugged the steamer basket, turned around to avoid Ling Zhan's line of sight, and walked towards the stove that was already steaming. "Let me help you." Ling Zhan did not see anything strange, so he hurriedly bumped into the muzzle of the gun. "No need." It was a very polite but distant response, which was equivalent to not responding at all. Fu Yingxiang was very skillful. She directly avoided Ling Zhan's outstretched hand and very steadily placed the steamer basket on the boiling water of the iron pot. Ling Zhan's hand missed and hung awkwardly in midair. At this moment, he realized that there was something wrong with the atmosphere. In this kind of situation, people would subconsciously ask for help from the people around them. He turned his head to look at Yi Huanyan, but the moment he saw Yi Huanyan, he remembered what happened in the past. It seemed that this person was not the right person to ask for help, so he looked away. Because of this, he missed the best time to make eye contact. Yi Huanyan naturally did not understand why he was so conflicted. She frowned and looked away from him. She called Fu Yingxiang and said, "How much more do you want to make? Is one steamer enough? I originally planned to make more for you to eat during the new year, so there's no rush to make more. This is just to see how much it is first, and then make one more steamer. Then we'll take some to the hospital and give it to Xiaoyu." Fu Yingxiang lowered her head and walked past Ling Zhan directly towards Yi Huanyan. Ling Han coughed dryly and stood up. "You guys are busy. I'll go out first." After saying this, he glanced at Ling Zhan. It seemed that he could not bear to see him being ignored like this, so he helped him out. "Ling Li is running around every day. You should control her a little. Uncle called me the day before yesterday to ask about her homework. Has she started to do the graduation design?" Ling Zhan was stunned for a few seconds and then came to his senses. "I don't know. She is not inspired every day. In fact, she probably did not study hard in her major. In university, she was busy with the club. She was annoyed that my mother always kept an eye on her graduation design at home, so she came back to lie low. Then I suggest you persuade her to come over to help make desserts, and then go to the hospital." Yi Huanyan suddenly interrupted with a meaningful look on her face. "After all, my old lady isn't good at anything else, but she's good at jewelry." Ling Zhan was stunned for a moment, and then suddenly came to his senses. Yi Huanyan's mother, when Yi, was not good at making jewelry. She was a master. If she was willing to tutor Ling Li for 2 days, her graduation design would be miles ahead of her peers. Ling Zhan did not care about his sister's graduation design, but he was grateful that Ling Han and his wife helped him out. Hearing this, he hurriedly pretended to be enlightened and hurried out of the kitchen to find Ling Li. Only Yi Huanyan and Fu Yingxiang were left in the kitchen. "Sister Ling, what do you think of my work?" "It's very good. In fact, it would be faster if you had a mold. We can do it in batches before the new year. I will order a mold." Yi Huanyan put the newly formed dessert in her hand into a new steamer. She looked at Fu Yingxiang, who was obviously absent-minded at this time, and pretended to be casual. "Sister Ling, during the new year, we are in the suburbs. We can set off firecrackers. It is very lively. The city center is even more lively at night. I will take you to see the fireworks." "Yan Yan." Fu Yingxiang interrupted her. "I will probably go back to Macau in 2 days. The casino annual meeting is coming. It's okay. You can come back after the annual meeting. Don't bother. I go out for a vacation every spring festival, and this year is the same. If it weren't for Ling Zhan, would you refuse if I asked you to stay?" Yi Huanyan asked straightforwardly. Since there was no point in hiding some things, it was better to be frank. Fu Yingxiang didn't look up. She seemed to have expected Yi Huanyan to see through her. She said in a muffled voice, "I don't know, but I definitely have to go now." "Why?" "I don't know." "Sister Ling, you are not such a wishy-washy person. Yi Huanyan frowned. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid that if you enter a new relationship, your future will be uncertain? But there is nothing in this world that is fixed. It's nothing. It's already been booked. Fu Yingxiang looked up calmly. I don't have the energy to guess whether it is fixed or not. My life is very good now, so I don't need to make any changes. That's it. For the first half of her life, she had always thought that her marriage with Gu Xinian was fixed. Even when he brought Su Ku to tell her to break off the engagement, she didn't doubt that it was fixed. Because she believed in sincerity, she was even prepared to die when Gu Xinian and Su Ku got married. Later on, unforeseen events repeatedly told her that sometimes it was wrong to insist. It was bigotry, it was a dead end, and it was a case of not crying until you see the coffin. When she used up all her bigotry in this life, she felt that being content with the status quo was the greatest responsibility for her life. So any unforeseen event was unnecessary trouble for her. Then what do you mean by your interactions with Ling Zhan these days? Even Li can see it. He is just a child. Fu Yingxiang took a deep breath. After a few seconds of silence, she said in a low voice, I was too bored recently, so I didn't know how to control the distance between us. But in fact, we are just normal friends. Then, 2 nights ago, where did you and Ling Zhan go? Yi Huanyan's question made Fu Yingxiang's eyes suddenly shrink, revealing a trace of nervousness. Last night, you went out for supper. Gu Qi and I were next to you. Yi Huanyan did not hide the fact that she had eavesdropped on their conversation. She was eager to verify her guess. She was eager to confirm whether Fu Yingxiang was avoiding them because she was afraid that it would affect her current life, or if there was another possibility. Nothing happened. I am just used to going to the gym at night. I met him that day, and he came to the gym. Is that so? I said before, we are just normal friends. If I caused him to misunderstand, I will use my departure to dispel such thoughts. So, during the spring festival, if his parents come back, Yen, I hope that you can pretend that nothing happened. You don't have to say anything. Sure enough, it was the second guess. It was not that she was afraid of attracting trouble, or that she was afraid of disturbing her life. What Fu Yingxiang was afraid of was disrupting Ling Zhan's original life, disrupting his family relationship, and alarming his parents and siblings. Chapter 520. When Ling Li barged into the kitchen, Yi Huanyan and Fu Yingxiang were in a stalemate. Yi Huanyan just wanted Fu Yingxiang to stay for the spring festival. After all, she had no family now. Whether it was going back to Macau or going on vacation, she was all alone. Originally, she wanted her to come to Lanjiang City to play for 2 days. After 2 days, she would play until after the spring festival. Fu Yingxiang refused to stay. Just as she was unwilling to give in, Ling Li pushed open the door and rushed in with a look of surprise. Yi Huanyan, is your mother really the master when Yi? It was no wonder. Since Ling Li returned to the old house, he had never seen one Yi. The morning after she came, when Yi went to the hospital with bags and never came back. Yes. Then is your mother really willing to teach me about jewelry design? It was rare for Ling Li to be bashful. Yi Huanyan suddenly said, What do you think? I'm such an easy person to talk to. Then of course your mother is. Very difficult to talk to. Yi Huanyan continued the conversation and looked at Ling Li mischievously. My mother is not as easy to talk to as I am. My mother has been spoiled since she was a child. Her temper is very bad. If you don't learn well and go to ask her some childish questions, I'm afraid you will only be rolled her eyes. Ling Li's face turned pale. If I'm good at it, do I still need help? So when you go, carry something with you. Don't hit a smiling person. Yi Huanyan glanced at the steamer that had just been put in the pot and gave Ling Li a look. Ling Li was not a fool. After being stunned for a while, he came to his senses. Are you serious? If I carry this, your mother will help me? How do you know if you don't try? All right, in order to show my sincerity, I will also help you make some snacks." As he spoke, Ling Li rolled up his sleeves. "How do I do this? How do I pinch this?" Yi Huanyan looked at Fu Wingxiang. "I've only just started learning, so I'm not very good at it yet. I won't lead you astray. You can ask fourth sister to teach you." Hearing this, Ling Li still had a nonchalant look on his face as he walked over to Fu Wingxiang with a grin. "Future sister-in-law, teach me how to pinch this. I'm not your future sister-in-law." Fu Wingxiang frowned. "I'm about the same age as your mother, so what?" Ling Li looked indifferent as he casually picked up a piece of dough. "According to seniority, I can't call you auntie. Elder sister is elder sister." Fu Wingxiang was rendered speechless by his words. He could only obediently teach her how to make snacks. Ling Li was smart, but he was lazy and could not concentrate. Often, he would not finish one thing before he was busy with another. That was why he looked so sloppy. Now that he had just learned how to make snacks, he developed a strange idea. He pinched a few zodiac signs and threw them into the steamer basket. He used date paste to decorate his nose and eyes. It was quite vivid. Yi Huanyan had her own reasons for wanting to put Ling Li and Fu Wingxiang together. Things started because of Ling Li. The one who started the trouble should end it. This was the logic behind it. I still have something to do. You can ask fourth sister for advice here. Fourth sister is more familiar with my mother's habits than I am. Yi Huanyan threw down these words and became a hands-off shopkeeper. He pushed open the door and left the kitchen. What she said was the truth. She had left home when she was young, but Fu Wingxiang had practically grown up in the Four Seasons villa. To Wen-yi, she was more like a daughter than a daughter. She was originally slated to be her daughter-in-law, but who knew that she would not be fated to be with her son? In this world, apart from the Gu family, the one who could speak to Wen-yi the most was Fu Wingxiang. "Sister Xiaoying, what do you think of the rabbit I pinched? Will the master like it?" "She prefers lions and tigers." "Then I'll change it." Ling Li's excited appearance made Fu Wingxiang feel a bit at a loss. This girl clearly showed so much hostility and rejection towards her in the beginning. She even ridiculed her in front of everyone. Why did she suddenly act like nothing had happened? Was she a child or something? She was confused. Yi Huanyan left the kitchen and shrunk her neck as she returned to Nanao's room. As soon as she opened the door, she saw Ling Han sitting by the bed and helping his son put on his clothes. "You're awake?" She smiled and walked over. Ling Li just came to disturb him. He already ate breakfast. How could he not wake up? Ling Han turned around and answered Yi Huanyan's question as he helped his son put on his clothes. Ever since Ling Han stepped down as the president of the pleasure group, he had been idle at home. On one hand, it was because when he told him not to move around when his legs had just started to recover, his range of activities was basically limited to the old mansion. On the other hand, it was because Yi Huanyan was so busy that her feet didn't touch the ground. So Nanao could only leave it to him. For this son, who didn't grow up by his side, Ling Han could be considered as a 24 filial exemplary father. Basically, he would fulfill his son's request and serve him wholeheartedly. Sometimes, even Yi Huanyan couldn't stand Nanao's unreasonable tantrums, but he could still smile and persuade her that the child was still young. They were all children who were spoiled by their mothers. The Ling family was the opposite. At this moment, this little devil had finished a bowl of porridge and was lying on the bed with his eyes closed, allowing Ling Han to do whatever he wanted. It could be said that he opened his mouth and stretched his hands out for food. If you spoil him like this, he won't even know how to put on his own clothes in the future. It's okay. I'm afraid he won't want us to help him put on his clothes when he's a little older. Ling Han had his own ideas. It's not a big deal to spoil him a little more while he's still young and can still be at the mercy of his parents. What kind of logic is that? Yi Huanyan casually ridiculed and conveniently cleaned up the porridge bowl at the bedside. Ling Li, this girl, doesn't even know to take the bowl away after leaving. There's no need to worry about living happily like this. Ling Han added. At this moment, he had already helped Nanao put on his clothes. A bright red cashmere sweater and gray corduroy pants. Like a small fireball, he rolled on the bed with his eyes closed and went back to sleep, looking like he didn't want to wake up. When he was young, he hoped that his parents would care more about him. But he was sent to the United States very early on. It was said that he wanted to receive the best education. In fact, it was just that when Qingwan and Ling Dongming felt that it was better to send him out to be independent than to let him experience a cold family atmosphere from a young age. No one knew better than him the influence of his original family. These influences caused him to worry about Yi Huanyan later on. I plan to go to the hospital with Ling Li later. If you don't have time, can you come with me? No need. Ling Han pondered for a few seconds. I have an appointment with Wen Siyuan. Umbo doesn't know about Wen Siyuan's return to the country, right? Yi Huanyan's eyes narrowed. Previously, you asked fourth sister to temporarily let Wen Siyuan go so that he could return to the country? Yes. Ling Han nodded with a solemn expression on his face. Fourth sister let him come back, but he doesn't dare to look for his father for the time being. So he's still looking for his gang of bad friends to raise money. But when a tiger leaves the plains, who would be willing to help him? Chapter 5:21. Umbo was shrewd and good at hiding himself. Otherwise, he would not have stayed in pleasure for so many years without anyone seeing his ambition. However, he had a son who was not easy to worry about. Not only did he inherit his lustfulness from his father, but he also particularly liked to be in the limelight. Fu Yingxiang's subordinates in Macau played a little trick, and he obediently took the bait. He owed a lot of gambling debts in Macau and almost lost his life. The casino was naturally Fu Yingxiang's casino. Even if it wasn't, it could still be the casino of the uncles, who were on good terms with her in the same industry. For the sake of tens of millions in gambling money, it was naturally not a problem for her to come out from their hands. That was why Wen Siyuan could sneak back from Macau. Have you thought about how to talk to Wen Siyuan? Yi Huanyan asked. Ling Han nodded. Before the accident in pleasure, I actually had a good relationship with him. For the sake of my mother, most of the gambling money he owed was offset from the company's account. His dividends were far less than that. He knew it well. In fact, there was no need to talk. The first thing Wen Siyuan did when he just escaped from Macau was to find Ling Han for help. If it weren't for the fact that his father and Ling Han were against each other before, he wouldn't have waited until today. It's still up to your sisters to help. He should be tired of hiding in the nightclub these 2 days. After Wen Siyuan came back, he had been staying in Su Hong's nightclub. His words and deeds were basically under Ling Han's supervision. After Su Hong heard from Yi Huanyan about the importance of the Wen family's father and son to Ling Han, she added fuel to the fire. The girls under her hands served the young master warmly every day. After staying in the land of tenderness for a long time, naturally, he would forget about home. The matter of going home to find his father for help had long been forgotten. Therefore, after staying for a week, in addition to the gambling debts in Macau, he also owed a lot of money for prostitution. Wen Siyuan took the initiative to contact Ling Han yesterday. He had been freeloading at Su Hong's place for a week. The finance officer brought the bill to Su Hong. Looking at the few digits on the bill, Su Hong did not care much. Someone had to pay the bill, but this young master's good days were coming to an end. Just do what you need to do. In less than half an hour, Wen Siyuan was beaten black and blue. He was tied to the sofa in the private room and begged for mercy. Su Hong was wearing a satin blue dress and a white fur coat. She looked like a concubine from the old days. She stood in front of Wen Siyuan and threw the list in her hand at him. Young Master Wen, take a good look. This is the bill for your drinks and the money for the ladies. It's a total of $12 million. I've rounded up the rest for you. Is that enough? Sister Hong, I'm rich. I'm really rich. My father is the president of the pleasure group. Don't be ridiculous. Su Hong's face darkened and she glared at Wen Siyuan. Pleasure group? It's F asterisk King bankrupt and closed down. If I remember correctly, their president's surname is Ling, right? When did Ling Han have a son as old as you? You know Ling Han. Although when Siyuan was not smart, he was not stupid. Su Hong was slightly stunned. If it were not for the dim light, she would have been exposed. She pretended to be calm and sneered. Why do you think I'm not qualified to know you people from the upper class? Don't think that you can put on a suit and act like a dog. In the end, you still kneel under the skirts of my ladies. When Siyuan's face turned pale. No, Sister Hong, that's not what I meant. If you know Ling Han, can you help me pass a message and ask him to come and save me? He's my cousin. Su Hong pretended to be stupid and rolled her eyes at him. Cousin? Who are you kidding? Why don't you ask your father for money? My father, if my father knew, he would definitely break my legs. Moreover, he doesn't have money. When Siyuan's face was bitter as he looked at Su Hong with a fawning expression. Red wine, take it that I'm begging you. You won't lose out. I promise that my cousin will definitely pay back the money for me. He has money. What kind of money does he have? Su Hong interrupted him. Who the F asterisk CK doesn't know that Ling Han doesn't even have the pleasure group now. He's just a son-in-law who married into the family. What kind of money or ability does he have to save you? He doesn't, but his wife does. For the sake of his cousin, he will definitely save me, Sister Hong. When Siyuan was about to cry. Look, you won't be able to find a single cent even if you beat me to death. Why don't you do me a favor and help me contact him? Just take it as a chance. Maybe you can get the money? Su Hong hugged her arms and pondered for a few seconds before spitting. How F asterisk King shameless. Fine, I'll take it as a gamble and try my luck. If he doesn't help you pay back the money, I'll rip off your 2 kidneys to pay off the debt. When Siyuan repeatedly begged for mercy. Please do me a favor. My 2 kidneys aren't worth much. Bastard. After saying this, Su Hong turned around and left the private room. She ordered 2 bodyguards to guard when Siyuan and provide him with food and drinks as usual. As for contacting Ling Han, she had never stopped. When Ling Han arrived at Su Hong's place, when Siyuan was tied to the sofa, his food and drink were roughly fed by 2 big men, not giving him any chance to escape. This brat is waiting here for you to save him. In the corridor, Su Hong deliberately lowered her voice with a bit of contempt. Are you sure that Umbo will really listen to such a good-for-nothing guy? Although Umbo is lecherous, he only has 1 son for so many years. After all, when Siyuan is the one he trusts the most. At this moment, they had already reached the door of the private room. Su Hong stopped, looked around, and raised her voice. Mr. Ling, let me say this first. My men did take action a little, but it was because I had no choice. If everyone owes money for drinks like young Master One, I won't be able to open my shop anymore. Homeless people come here every day to eat and drink. I might as well do charity. Su Hong's voice was loud, and the door was not closed tightly. When Siyuan, who was sleeping inside, heard this, he instantly struggled to get up from the sofa and shouted at the door, as if he had been injected with a cardiac stimulant. Cousin, save me. Ling Han glanced at Su Hong. Su Hong understood and smiled. I'll give you some time alone. Mr. Ling, you can decide to return the money yourself. I'll wait for you next door. Thank you. After saying this, the bodyguard helped to open the door. Ling Han walked into the private room and turned on the light switch on the wall. The dark private room was suddenly as bright as day. When Siyuan was not used to such a strong light and subconsciously closed his eyes. In front of Ling Han's eyes was a mess. These days, when Siyuan was indeed living a carefree life here. This was good. It was enough to give him a good reason to make this deal, and he did not have to care about any of the Wen family's reputation. Cousin, you're finally here. Save me. Why should I save you? When Siyuan? Ling Han's voice was very cold. The strong light in front of him seemed to be blocked by something. When Siyuan slowly opened his eyes. Under the backlight, he could not see Ling Han's expression clearly. He only felt that it was too cold. You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.